at the desk in front of Taoya. She yawns, complaining of being sleepy. Heido lays her head on the desk to sleep. Taoya is surprised to see her after a month's absence, noting she's still wearing her taboo hood. As Heido sleeps, Taoya stares at her. His gaze is intense. Suddenly, her eyes snap open, catching him. Heido asks Taoya why he was looking at her so passionately, though she excuses her own rude behavior because her appearance at school is so rare. He defensively asks why she is at school today. She explains that someone named Newman told her she was free until tonight, so she came to kill time. Seizing the opportunity, she asks to copy his piled-up assignments, and he agrees. Taoya thinks to himself that no matter how she behaves, she would not receive any punishment. He hands over the papers. Taoya reflects on Heido LaBuffet, considering her someone who has it. He recalls the popular story of how she was invited to the Kendo Club with a scholarship. However, she abolished the entire club right after joining. Those who saw her and those who fought her had their wills broken by the immense difference in talent. Endless rumors surround her because of it, from being banned from tournaments to traveling the country defeating dojos or even killing people on secret orders. Taoya concludes that Heido is a genius at a level that can't be reached by just working hard. Heido notices him staring and asks what's wrong. Taoya quickly denies it. Taoya looks away, flustered. Heido gives a knowing smile. The school day ends. Later, while walking, Taoya looks through a small booklet. He finds himself on a bridge. Suddenly, someone lands on the railing behind him. A voice calls out, asking him to wait and inquiring about his name. Taoya is startled to see Heido perched on the railing, asking where she's standing. She explains she came to return the assignments, clarifying that when she said copy, she meant photocopy. She apologizes for making him go out of his way. He tells her it wasn't that urgent, and she could have given them back tomorrow. Suddenly, Heido gets uncomfortably close, startling Taoya. He stumbles back, asking what she is doing. She says she was curious about his eyes, commenting on his deep, shadowy eyebrows and how they don't seem like those of someone who enjoys studying. Heido asks why he pushes himself so hard. Taoya admits that he's searching for talent. He presents his booklet, calling it his latest fortress, explaining that's all there is to it. Heido seems puzzled. Taoya lists an extensive array of skills he's tried to learn, from arts and sports to martial arts. Heido is amazed by the sheer number of things he's tried. Taoya glumly states he had no talent for any of them. She notes he seems ambitious and hardworking, not like someone who couldn't learn any of that. Taoya explains that in every field there are always people superior to him, and he knows he can never come close to them. This makes him fully realize the extent of his own lowliness. He tells Heido that for someone like her who has it, understanding his feelings must be impossible. She simply asks, "Really?" Then she grabs his tie. Heido pulls Taoya close and tells him that she thinks they are similar. Taoya is left completely stunned by her words. Flustered by her intense gaze, Taoya tries to excuse himself, saying he has crammed school and they should talk another time. Heido asks if he plans to stay out late. He confirms that he is. She looks at her phone and cryptically remarks that there will be a great full moon tonight. As Taoya walks away, Heido calls out to Newman. She asks her phone for the boy's name. Newman replies that it's Senji Taoya and chides her for not remembering the name of the person who sits next to her and helped her out. Heido quietly repeats his name. Newman questions Heido's intentions, asking why she didn't warn Taoya to stay away from the station. She knows someone will make their move tonight. Heido replies that any warning would have been useless, as she could see in Taoya's eyes that he would have gone anyway. Newman then asks if she wants to involve him. A man walks through a public area. He bumps into an older gentleman, and his friends immediately start harassing the victim. They demand a proper apology, while their friend looks on with a sinister smile. The man's face twists into a horrifying grin as he apologizes. His hand transforms into a grotesque blade, and his friends, calling it gross, tell him to leave so they won't be late for their meeting. They flee in terror. As the transformed man walks away, he wishes for night to come. His friend, watching him go, wonders if he was just seeing things, like the petals that seem to fall. Later, students leave the cram school exhausted. Taoya overhears some girls gossiping about a student at their school who gets top scores on national mock exams every time. They envy him for being in the winning group. Looking at his own dismal rank, Taoya crumples his results in frustration. Taoya laments his lack of talent in studying. He resolves not to be pessimistic, feeling that giving up would waste all his efforts. He is determined to find at least one thing. He wants a talent he can use to surpass his brother. His thoughts are interrupted by the same group of bullies from earlier, plotting revenge at a nearby game center. A taunting voice in his head tells him he has no talent and should just reincarnate. Feeling tired and overwhelmed by the noise around him, Taoya decides to go home and take a little detour to refresh his head. He decides to follow Heido's advice for tonight. Under the great full moon, police investigate a report. They are searching for someone, but an officer reports there was no one there. Someone reported hearing a scream from this area. A senior officer spots someone crouching nearby and orders his subordinates to investigate, dismissing the figure as a drunk. The two officers approach the figure. They ask if the person is all right and notice strange petals on the ground. The person looks up at them and asks to be excused. The crouched man, Ku, grins madly and tells the officers not to mind him as he consumes a person. The officer recoils in horror, realizing the man is eating someone. In a flash, Ku attacks. One officer is struck down. The other officer can only watch in shock. The senior officer hears two loud bangs. He fears someone has been shot with a weapon. He demands an answer. He calls out to his subordinates, Ikeyama and Tsuchida. He gets no response. Ku stands over the fallen officers, a bloody cleaver in hand. He tauntingly calls out to the senior officer Sakata, asking for reinforcements. Officer Sakata is knocked against the police car. Ku grabs him as he tries to declare an emergency. Ku strikes him down. The officer pleads for him to stop. Smiling, Ku says he can't stop. With a sickening crunch, Ku crushes the officer's head, declaring how much fun it is. At that moment, Taoya arrives and witnesses the gruesome scene. Taoya stares in disbelief. He sees the mangled bodies on the ground. Ku, annoyed by the interruption, turns to face him, asking what's happening and calling him impolite. As petals disperse from Ku's body, the killer mocks him. Taoya knows he should run away as fast as possible, but his body won't move. He knows this isn't fear. He is utterly captivated by the unbelievable tragedy before him. He is taken in by the killer's talent, which he feels is beyond doubt. Taoya grits his teeth, pondering how this is possible. He theorizes that when people witness talent, there are three things they can feel. Those feelings are fear, admiration, and jealousy. He wonders with dawning horror if what he's feeling is envy. Heido suddenly appears next to Taoya, presenting her theory that the jealous ones have the greatest chance of obtaining talent for themselves. She tells Taoya that he too will bloom like petals. Confused, he asks her what she is talking about. Taoya wonders why Heido is here. She remarks that he's still feeling envious of the killer's talent despite the tragedy. She asks if he is not a bit too immersed. Their conversation is interrupted by Ku, who greets Heido. Heido comments that Newman had to work hard to find Ku, and Taoya is shocked that they know each other. Ku replies that he is just following his talent. He is grateful to them for drawing out this amazing ability from him. Taoya demands to know what Ku is talking about. The killer announces that he will make food out of them and eat them. Taoya steps forward to protect Heido, but she dismisses him as an outsider, a lost child. Ku considers his request. Ku says he understands and then lunges past Taoya straight for Heido. Taoya turns in shock. Ku's attack is stopped midair. He looks on in surprise. Newman's voice initiates a prediction calculation. Heido asks Newman if a prediction is necessary, but Newman insists, fearing a disturbing outcome. Taoya, on the ground, thinks he must be hallucinating from exhaustion, but Heido tells him he's not escaping reality. She tells him that for him, this is a chance to gain a talent. She explains that the petals are the sign of someone who has pulled out the talent from their previous life. Newman's voice explains the process of transmigration, pulling talent from a past life. Those who succeed are called returners. Heido quiets Newman, saying they need to explain if they want to involve him. She tells Taoya that he is all right. She then states that he has no choice but to believe. Heido explains that no matter how untalented someone is in this life, they can claim the talent of their past life. With a bright smile, she asks if it isn't the best possible outcome. She prepares for battle. She draws a weapon from her case. Heido reveals an ornate knife. Taoya wonders if she intends to fight with it. Newman's voice identifies it as the transmigration technique. Hato tells Taoya to pay close attention, as it's about to happen. Before Hato can use her knife, Ku hurls his cleaver at her. Reacting instantly, Taoya shoves her out of the way, taking the hit himself. Taoya cries out Hato's name, frantic about the gash on her neck. Ku looks on, telling him not to worry, as it won't be painful. Taoya panics that the blood won't stop. Hato touches the wound and realizes it is not blood. Her transmigration knife lies shattered on the ground. Ku raises his cleaver for another strike. Taoya stares at the falling petals in confusion. As the cleaver descends, Taoya blocks the attack. He calls out for his own weapons, Gut Cutter, Head Reaper. His hands transform and he summons two blades. A swirling tattoo appears on his thigh. With newfound power, Taoya lunges forward, striking Ku, who reels back in shock. Taoya realizes with a shock that he too has undergone transmigration. Newman explains that heroes and extraordinary geniuses of the times eventually die, as they are people too. However, ironically, because they die, their souls transmigrate. And the talent of those great people is reborn in the present. Without any feelings of shyness, his heart was beating fast, just like in her case. The bloom of the talent in front of his eyes was beautiful. Hato, now transformed with short black hair and glowing eyes, reveals her true identity as the reborn Miyamoto Musashi Genshin. Winking at Taoya, she says, "Here I come." The scarred man, Albert Fish, complains about being attacked so suddenly, calling it rude, though he admits the cut only itches a bit. Hato retorts that to pay him back, she will hit him with her own attack and make him quiet down. Hato unleashes a sword technique, Ibutsunite Raihu Yonchiki Kaben. She tells her opponent not to bother with boring talk, and suggests they just try to cut each other instead. Watching from the side, Taoya is stunned, wondering if she just cut him without him even being able to see it. Over the phone, Newman tells him to be delighted, as he is witnessing a swordsmanship born of great history. An ethereal image of a samurai appears behind Hato, revealing that she possesses Miyamoto Musashi's talent. Albert Fish agrees to her terms, saying he will answer her wish to cut each other. As their blades clash, he slices through her weapon. Taoya watches in awe, his consciousness unable to keep up with the pace of their fight. He concludes that this is an inhuman territory. Taoya wonders if she pulled out a talent from a previous life. Taoya trembles as he watches. Newman's voice asks if he is trembling in fear, but says he shouldn't feel bad about it. The voice explains that it is a reaction to something of a different nature. Taoya isn't afraid, he's exhilarated, finding the prospect of reincarnation wonderful. He challenges the idea of transmigration, saying that calling it unreal is no laughing matter. He believes if reincarnation exists, it's a chance far more fascinating than earning talent through hard work. He passionately exclaims that he wants to know how to pull out his own talent. The fierce sword fight between Hato and Albert Fish continues, their blades clashing in a flurry of sparks. Taoya watches silently, completely absorbed by the spectacle. Newman reveals the identity of Hato's opponent, Albert Fish. Newman asks if Taoya wanted to know about the past life of the one fighting Hato, and Taoya confirms. Taoya asks if this is that asterisk fish, and Newman comments on his knowledge. Taoya states that it's included in their education. Newman explains that Albert Hamilton Fish, also known as the Moon Maniac, was the worst serial killer in American history, having killed 400 people. Taoya understands now that the origin of Fish's alias is that his murders often took place during the full moon. Newman explains that while one can pull talent from a previous life, there's no way to choose the talent you receive. Talents can come from great heroes who advanced humanity, or from terrible criminals, killers, and dictators who were only a harm. Taoya realizes he can't decide what talent he might get, and accepts it's natural since not everyone was a hero. Even then, he decides he'd like to bet on the chance. The branch of reincarnation is spreading, and more returners will appear from now on. Newman explains their mission is to welcome those who are a benefit to humanity and quickly eliminate those who are a harm. This is their reason for being here. Albert Fish narrowly dodges a strike from Hato, who pushes him back. Hato remarks that it was a close call. Taoya watches in shock. Newman warns Taoya not to get closer, telling him there's nothing to be anxious about and to just watch. Fish taunts Hato, expressing his disappointment as he had high expectations for her master fencing talent. He calls her blade dull, noting that while she has speed, her attacks only cause little itches. He offers to cut her nicely if she just becomes obedient. Annoyed by his taunts, Hato says he's being playful and that it's a habit of swordsmen to enjoy the fight. She then unleashes another technique, a Butsunaiten Ryaihu Yakusano Kabin. Her attack strikes Fish dead on. Newman comments that no matter what kind of monster the historical killer Fish was, he's no match for a historical swordsman in a clear sword fight. Hato calls Fish a fool, asking if he can only see one long sword. Hato stands over the defeated Albert Fish, questioning if that was all he was capable of. She calls him an unshaped killer monster. She reminds him that while he was executed by electric chair in his past life, this time he will be beheaded. Taoya is amazed, realizing Hato was just being playful, but Newman tells him to hurry up and finish it, having detected a change in Fish's pulse. Newman initiates a prediction calculation. The voice urgently instructs Taoya, bend your body by 30 cm. Fish's hand twitches, holding a cleaver. Hato looks on, surprised. An explosion erupts nearby. A large piece of metal flies through the air, right past Taoya. He looks back in confusion. Taoya realizes that the patrol car door flew this far in the explosion, and if his head had been any higher, it would have been blown off. He remembers Newman's instruction to bend his body by 30 cm. He asks Hato if she's all right, and she confirms she's fine. Hato deduces that Fish wanted to involve him in the fight and wonders what he'll set up for them next. The police car continues to burn. Taoya notes that Fish isn't moving and wonders if he died. Hato asks for Newman's prediction. Newman calculates a 73% chance he's alive, but predicts his outer scars will wear him out and he'll be grilled to death. Taoya speculates that there's also a chance he used the explosion to hide himself. Hato senses movement and shouts that he is coming. The explosion attracts a crowd of onlookers, who are both amazed and worried about the burning patrol car. Hato dismisses them as just curious onlookers. Taoya wonders if they gathered because of the explosion. Newman's voice warns that this is bad and they need to hurry. A monstrous, shadowy figure emerges from the flames, startling the crowd. One of the onlookers realizes the explosion wasn't for hiding, but to get him involved. It was all just bait. The figure bites into one of the bystanders. The attacker is Albert Hamilton Fish. Hato explains to a shocked Taoya that the reason Fish was called the worst in history wasn't because he had a killer's talent. Taoya recoils in horror. As Fish attacks another person, Hato screams at him, asking what he's doing. Fish's killings had a specific aim, to eat his victims. Hato watches in shock as he disappears. The truth is revealed: he possessed the talent of eating people. Fish grabs Hato with incredible force. She cries out in pain. Taoya screams her name in panic, realizing the situation is bad. Newman confirms muscle projection and an abnormal increase in Fish's pulse, while Fish muses about how tender and fresh young meat is. Hato realizes that by eating people, he probably powers himself up. Fish transforms, gloating that power is swelling within him. Taoya questions if it's even possible to power up his body by eating people, wondering if it's some kind of self-suggestion. Newman explains that logic doesn't apply here. If a talent goes above and beyond, it can reach an unreal territory. Newman gives an example of someone who sank 8 ships with 1 arrow. Another example is someone who didn't die even when shot by 10 bullets. And there was even a person with eyesight so good he could see the stars in daylight. It's obvious that those who left their name in history were not normal people. Hato shouts at the killer monster not to underestimate her. She prepares to unleash her Butsunaiten Ryaihu Yakusano Kabin technique once more. Hato unleashes a flurry of attacks, but the newly transformed Fish is unharmed, moving faster than she can see. Hato is thrown back, defeated. Newman's analysis reports serious injuries all over her body and predicts she will faint due to a concussion as Fish stands menacingly over the rubble. Hato lies unconscious on the ground. Newman tells Taoya not to have simplistic thoughts about helping her. She explains that the situation is out of their hands and it's impossible for average people to go against returners, urging him to get away. Taoya asks what about Hato. Newman coldly states that it's not something he should be concerned about. The monstrous Fish looms over the unconscious Hato, remarking how tasty she looks. His hand reaches for her. He prepares to eat her. Taoya throws his phone, which flashes, distracting Fish. Taoya steps forward, noting that just as he thought, Fish is super sensitive to fresh blood. Newman asks what he is doing. Taoya admits to himself that he's doing something idiotic, but even so, he will act as bait to gain some time. Taoya stands his ground and declares that he wants talent. He refuses to run away, deciding that this is worth betting his life on, even if Newman warns he'll be killed. He wants to know about Newman, who splatters petals around. And if he's going to do this anyway, he wants to hear from Hato why she involved him in all of this. In another dimension, Newman watches Taoya's resolve on a screen. With tears in her eyes, she declares that she won't let Hato die no matter what. Elsewhere, Newton comments on Taoya's manly decision to stand in front of a wounded woman to save her. Newton asks Einstein if she was listening, stating that men are selfish and Taoya is just like her, unable to be honest. Einstein gets flustered and tells Newton, whom she calls Applehead, to shut up. Newton teases her for blushing so easily, saying it's also like an apple. A silhouette complains that Musashi is in a pinch and it's not the time for a carefree conversation. The figure points out that everyone else is out and their main battle force is not available. Einstein wants to go help, but Newman stops her, saying there's no need. Einstein looks on, confused. She questions Newman's decision. Taoya faces the monster, wondering if he can even gain time against it as Fish gloats about loving fresh meat. He knows he can't see or react to the monster's attack speed, and that he'll be dead if any attack hits. Wondering what to do, he receives a prediction calculation from Newman. On her signal, drain strength from his left knee and move 80 cm to the left. Following Newman's instruction, Taoya dodges Fish's attack at the last second. The monster is left stunned in confusion. Taoya looks on, surprised he survived. Newman tells Taoya that this is the passing mark for his talent's consciousness. By entrusting his life to her, they can gain time. She introduces herself as John von Neumann. She will let him have a taste of a little bit of talent. A menacing genius, reborn, there was once a mathematician. In the 19th century, 3 mathematicians, including him, were carrying out calculations for the sake of approximate effectiveness. One used a large slide rule, while another used a desktop calculator. However, he simply turned towards the ceiling and put out the right answer, counting in his head faster than the other two. His name was John von Neumann, the father of the modern computer. He was such a great person that some thought him to be a demon because of his extreme calculating skills. Taoya Senji runs through the night, calling out Newman's name. He pants as he follows her instructions, but grows anxious, asking if she's sure Fish is still chasing him. Newman's voice from the phone tells him not to worry. Newman explains that she has calculated that Fish is taking advantage of the deep shadows cast by the full moon. Taoya understands that she even calculated the effect of the full moon. Her eye reflects the data as she performs a prediction calculation. She warns that the next attack will arrive in 2 seconds and gives a precise instruction to advance 40 cm and bend by more than 30 cm. Though confused by the sudden command, Taoya immediately complies. A car suddenly flies over Taoya's head, crashing exactly where he had been standing. Stunned, he realizes the car flew over him, just as Newman issues another command to jump. Taoya leaps into the air, narrowly avoiding a sweeping attack from the shadowy Fish. He now understands that every one of Newman's actions has a purpose. Newman explains that by knowing the purpose, she can calculate the ideal action by converting environmental circumstances, gravity, and other variables into numbers. She calmly declares that this ability is her talent. She assures Taoya that if he follows her orders, Fish's attacks won't reach him. Taoya is astonished, wondering how a person can predict the future by converting circumstances and actions into numbers. Taoya realizes that Newman is also inhumanly strong. He curses, realizing she is showing him her true power. As he steels himself, Newman gives another order, telling him to avert his body by more than 30 degrees. Taoya twists his body just as an attack whips past him. His glasses are sent flying, but he is unharmed. As Fish retracts his weapon, Newman commends Taoya's compliance. Fish cracks his whip-like belt, taunting them to enjoy the fight more. Taoya notes the weapon change, while Newman comments that the introduction of more random numbers makes things troublesome. She informs Taoya that she will have to give him a few more orders. Newman issues a complex series of commands: move 20 cm to the left, jump 15 cm, rotate, then stretch his leg and bend his elbow. Taoya follows every instruction precisely, dodging another frenzied attack. Fish laughs maniacally as his attack misses. Fish praises Taoya's vitality. Taoya struggles to catch his breath as Newman warns him that another attack is coming. She instructs him to gaze to the right, then move left and under. Taoya acknowledges the command and ducks just in time. After falling, Newman tells Taoya to roll to the right within 1 second. He complies, but this time the whip-like attack grazes his back. Taoya cries out in pain from the blow. From the shadows, Fish seems delighted to have finally landed a hit. Taoya curses, realizing he can't react in time due to fatigue. He worries that no matter how perfect Newman's predictions are, he'll eventually fail to keep up. Newman states that this is the limit. Taoya insists he can still move, but Newman points out that his body is trembling and her predictions aren't off. This is the end. With a look of fierce determination, Taoya declares that he will survive this. Newman tells him to step back to avoid a cloud of dust. Seeing Taoya stand his ground, Fish asks if he's stopped running away. The building behind Fish begins to crack and crumble. Fish advances, promising to cut him up nicely. The building collapses violently. Newman's voice says she told him this was the limit. Taoya realizes she was talking about the building's structural limit, not his own. He understands she moved him around specifically to aim for this outcome, as Newman asks if he is okay. He thinks that even if this doesn't beat Fish, it should at least restrain him. Fish emerges from the rubble completely unscathed, commenting that the collapse was dangerous. Taoya stares in disbelief. From her remote location, Newman calmly states that this is as she expected. Taoya stands frozen as the unharmed Fish faces him from amidst the destruction, a menacing grin on his face. Just then Hato LaBuffet lands on the scene. She greets Taoya and thanks him for waiting. He realizes her arrival was also part of the calculation, and that Newman makes no mistakes. Hato approaches and asks to see his injury. Hato quickly assesses Taoya's condition, noting skin fissures on his arm and muscle damage to his legs, which have drastically deteriorated his ability to move. Newman confirms that in his current state, he can't pass judgment on Fish. Taoya questions Hato's intentions, but she says it's okay as it's something she decided. Newman gives a final warning: Fish will return in 4 seconds, look out. Hato thanks Taoya, who becomes flustered. She recalls hazily that he protected her. He claims he only acted for his own personal benefit. With a bright, genuine smile, she says that in the end, her eyes didn't lie to her. Hato promises to tell Taoya about the talent from a previous life when the fight is over. Newman tells him to hide in the station and not get caught up in it. Hato yells at him to go. He asks if she has a plan, and she confirms she does until the very conclusion. Taoya's phone starts beeping, displaying a countdown of 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and he wonders about the time limit. Hato thinks to herself that Newman has set the table for her. She catches her breath, preparing for what's next. Her goal is to stall and lead Fish to the destination. The rest is up to her. Hato charges forward, her blade clashing with Fish's weapon. Fish readies his counterattack. She dodges and weaves, her movements creating afterimages as she engages the monstrous killer. Fish blocks her attack, the blade glancing off him. He mocks her, calling her attacks lenient and asking if she even has the will to kill him. Hato acknowledges that her sword is ineffective against him. But now she is convinced she can win. Hato realizes her opponent is too lenient. When he is in an absolute winning position, he is just enjoying the killing. He wants to torture her to death, and his attacks are not aiming for vital spots, which he sees as a good opportunity. The only thing left is to set the timing. A railroad crossing signal begins to ding loudly. Fish realizes her plan, asking if she thinks she can set it up so a train will hit him just because she cannot cut him. Hato compliments his judgment for an idiot cannibal killer and confirms his suspicion. She states that someone like him is not worthy of being pierced by her blade. Fish questions her confidence. His whip-like weapon wraps around her leg, trapping her. Suddenly the weapon constricts not around Hato, but around Fish himself, binding him completely. Taoya watches in shock. Hato cries out in pain as the weapon tightens. Fish proposes to make her minced meat instead, but Hato, now free, calmly replies that she will pass. Taoya frets, noting that while the last passenger train has left, cargo trains are still running, and there is only a minute left. He worries that it doesn't look like the plan will work, as Hato's body is covered in scars. Fish asks if she can still tell jokes in this situation. Hato insists she's completely serious. She declares that he will be run over by a train and die. Fish laughs maniacally and accepts her challenge. He tells her to come closer. He intends to behead her before the train arrives, and Hato agrees to his terms. She prepares her technique, Abutsunite Raihu Enuki. Countless ethereal blades erupt around Fish, piercing him from all directions. He is left shocked and bewildered. Fish cries out that he can't move, trapped by a countless number of swords. He wonders what she did to him. Heido, also surrounded by blades, stares him down and welcomes him to her point of death. Watching from afar, Taoya is confused as to why both of them have suddenly become unable to move. Newman explains that Heido set this up. It is a mental state in swordsmanship called Enuki, where rivaled abilities and overlapping points of death cause both parties to become unable to smash each other. Newman elaborates that Heido's Raihu Enuki is a swordless technique that forcefully pulls an opponent into this state, wrapping them in blades and erasing their mind. It aims for the pressure of death, openings and tremor in the mind. Normally, Heido would show her true value when she is in a superior position, but now it is different. All the while, the train barrels closer. The train's approach intensifies. Newman explains that Heido is using the point where both of them are unable to move. Taoya panics, realizing that if both of them can't move, then what will Heido do? Newman calmly states that this was a plan Heido herself chose, and she knows everything about it. Taoya watches with a horrified expression as the railroad crossing signal continues to beep. The train's horn blares as it barrels down the track towards the frozen combatants. As the train bears down on them, Fish realizes she wanted to bring him along from the start. He yells that they can settle this in hell. Heido calmly closes her eyes and replies that he is the only one going. At the very last second, Taoya rushes forward and pushes Heido out of the path of the speeding train. As he holds her, Fish is left alone on the tracks, looking on with an expression of envy before being struck. The cargo train's wheels grind over Fish. His body is obliterated as the train thunders past. Only a severed hand holding his weapon is left behind. After the train passes, Fish's weapon lies broken on the ground. Taoya supports the exhausted Heido. She weakly says his name and that she has been saved again. Catching his breath, Taoya reminds himself that he did it for his own sake because he would be troubled if she died. Panting and exhausted, Taoya reminds Heido of her promise to tell him about the talent of a previous life. She gives him a weak thumbs up in response. She agrees to his request. She wonders aloud where she should start. Elsewhere, Albert Einstein complains to Newman about her absurd methods, saying there should have been a better way to test Taoya. Newman brushes it off, saying the result was good since he came to save her. She offers to evaluate him for Einstein. She reports her evaluation of Taoya. He was truly superior, with the adaptability to obey orders and the knowledge to act properly. Newman continues her assessment, stating that Taoya has a craving for talent and all the qualifications to be welcomed into the forest. Einstein asks what's going on with Taoya, and Newman reveals she asked him to take a Rin's branch. Newman mentions that she will tell him more when he comes back, given the state of Einstein's legs. Hearing this, Einstein bursts into laughter. She finds the situation very funny. Einstein laughs that they've been nicely outwitted. Heido, however, asks who Newman is. Heido states that more than theories of transmigration and scattering petals. A mysterious grinning voice from the phone replies that Taoya won't be coming back. She wants to be told right now how she can pull out her talent. The mysterious voice explains that Taoya has gotten his hands on both what he longed for and how it's used. Back at the station, Taoya holds the branch-like weapon, a sinister smile on his face. In the quiet of his room, as birds chirp outside, Taoya Senji kneels on his bed. He stares intently at the strange, ornate branch-like weapon lying on the table before him. He recalls Heido's words, her casual demonstration of how to use the weapon. She had explained how simple it was to slit his throat. With trembling hands, Taoya presses the sharp edge to his own neck. He grunts in pain and hesitation, struggling to follow through with the act. He pulls back, thinking it is nowhere near as easy as she made it sound. Slitting one's own throat is not something that can be done consciously. He regrets not going through with it yesterday, when the chaos of the moment might have made it easier. He chides himself for being pathetic, realizing he missed a great chance to obtain a talent. He remembers the words about slitting his throat to gain the talent. He recalls how it could mean he still has hope. But it could also mean that if he hates himself, he should kill that part of him. Stealing his resolve, Taoya thinks that he can't chicken out now, as they could come for the branch at any time. He must pull out his talent before that happens, but suddenly a figure crashes through his window. The intruder is Heido, who casually greets a stunned Taoya. She then smacks him repeatedly, cheerfully telling him to just die once. Later, Hato apologizes, calling her violent intrusion a prank. Taoya, face swollen, sits on a bench while Hato washes her hands. He thinks he deserved it for stealing the branch, but is still annoyed. He complains about her beating him until the neighbors came to check on the commotion. He wonders who will pay for his broken appliances if he gets chased out of his apartment. Hato hands Taoya a towel, admitting he also shares some responsibility. She explains that because he charged in front of other returners and stole the branch, she assumed he had already transmigrated. She returns the weapon, surprising him. She clarifies that she's here to see what kind of talent he'll awaken. She adds that she had intended to give it to him anyway, so there was no need to steal it. Hato gives him an ultimatum: if he's not going to use it, she'll take it back. She looks at him intently, seeing his hesitation. Taoya clutches his shirt, gasping. She correctly identifies his emotion, stating that he is scared. Taoya denies it, but Hato tells him not to act tough. She knows the fear of death all too well, remembering the icy blade. Yet she still slit her throat. She asks him if he knows why. She explains it's because her desire for a talent overrode her fear. She then asks him if he is any different. Hato tells him to let her know when he feels like it. She then sits down next to him on the bench, suggesting it could lighten his burden. She gently takes his hand in hers. Taoya looks at their joined hands. He asks what she is doing, and Hato explains that since he seemed to be struggling, she thought holding his hand might help. She misinterprets his reaction as a boy's appeal and gives him a thumbs up. As she walks away, he thinks about how warm her hand was. He wonders when he last felt someone's warmth. He reflects on how he always sits alone on that bench, unnoticed. Hato's voice brings him back as she points out that he's crying. She asks if he hated her gesture that much, but he insists he was just kidding. Taoya, wiping his tears, thanks her, saying he was touched by her concern. Hato asks if he thinks she only cares about increasing the number of returners. Taoya denies it, asking if Newman told her something. She explains that while their group, the Forest of the Great, is looking for more members, that's not why she cares about him. She simply couldn't leave him alone. Taoya is left speechless by her statement. When Taoya asks what she means by her previous statement, Hato tells him they are alike. She looks at his eyes, swirling with desire and impatience. She says they are exactly like hers were before she got her talent. A group of shadowy figures materializes behind Hato, startling Taoya. He sees a vision of shadowy hands reaching for Hato. A young man who looks like Albert Einstein appears beside Hato, stating he's there to get Musashi. Taoya is confused by the large group that has suddenly assembled to watch him. He realizes with a shock that many people have shown up without him noticing. He understands that they are all returners. A girl in a wheelchair introduces herself as Newman, meeting him for the first time. As Taoya thanks her for her help yesterday, he notes that she reincarnated as a girl. She crushes his hand in a surprisingly strong grip. Hato whispers to him that Newman hates being called puny or cute and that she'll introduce everyone. A lineup of historical figures appears: Newton, Einstein, Nobel, Picasso, Nightingale, and Funisaka Hiroshi. Taoya recognizes the names from textbooks, understanding this is the Forest of the Greats. Newman confirms that this isn't even all of them, and that each holds a talent equivalent to or greater than her own or Hato's. Taoya realizes that returners are not those who had talent in their previous lives. Hato explains that everyone was the same as him, they all hated themselves and wished for a talent. He understands she's right, they all slit their throats to achieve it. They all wished to change and become different. Newman tells him that if he lacks that resolution, he can leave the branch and return to his daily life. The others wonder if they should leave him, but Hato tells them he's fine. She sees that his face is now full of resolution. She announces they will come again tomorrow. As the returners depart, they tell him they will meet again as fellows. Taoya watches them go. He thinks about how their powerful words have stirred him up. Taoya decides he's not doing this for them, but for his own sake, to overcome his fear and doubt. He walks towards a massive, gated mansion as onlookers marvel at its size. He stands before the gate, his mind made up. He wants a talent. He stands before the Senji family home. He reflects on his past. He once had a brother. His brother was a genius called God's child, while Taoya was constantly compared to him and pressured for being talentless. After his brother died from an illness, Taoya inherited the role, always afraid he would disgrace his family. He doesn't care what he has to do, he will get a talent and make everyone regret everything. This will be his revenge against those who look down on him. It is also revenge against his own self, who never speaks up or shows results. A wide, determined grin spreads across his face. With blood splatter as a backdrop, he declares that he is going to retaliate. Under the full moon, Taoya sits in his blood-splattered room. He looks up with a dark, satisfied expression. On the floor, his hand lies beside the branch, having finally completed the ritual. The main character, Taoya, was welcomed into the organization known as the Forest of the Great after obtaining the talent of Ishikawa Goemon. Despite this honor, he is being used as a lackey. The reason is twofold. Some members dislike the talent of a thief, and they see no practical use for it. But Taoya has his own reservations and has decided to explore the potential of his new talent. The petals that scatter during the night tell us that tonight, the returners fight once again. They are the Forest of the Great, an organization of righteous owners who expel their evil counterparts. Each of its members had conscientiously utilized their powers from past lives and were therefore fit to be called great. A man draws his sword, wondering what is going on and who these people are. A man in a mask flees, realizing that even though this is his turf, he is the one being cornered. His talent is identified as bodily dismemberment. He understands that his pursuers are returners, just like him. The masked man cries out as he dodges a flurry of attacks. Heido observes that he dodged her attack and questions his escape route. She reveals her talent as Miyamoto Musashi's Knight in Raihu. An apple lands with a thud near the fleeing man. Newton wishes him luck running away as another apple is coming. The attacker is revealed to be Isaac Newton, using the talent, the Fruit of Gravity. The masked man shifts, terrified at the thought of the destructive attack happening to him. While one returner is impressed by the escape, Einstein chides him, reminding him that she isn't a fighting member and calling him irresponsible. Einstein reveals her talent for spatial transference, coldly stating her dislike for men. The masked man senses an incoming attack and warns himself to be cautious. In an instant, Einstein appears beside him and touches his arm. She teleports away just as quickly, the entire sequence taking only a fraction of a second. The masked man's right arm is suddenly severed. He cries out in agony and disbelief, unable to understand how he was attacked so quickly. Einstein questions her companion's methods, but he insists he's different from common men. Another returner appears, pointing a gun at the man's head to deliver the finishing blow. The fight ends in a flash of movement and a cry of dissolution. The masked man gloats, believing he has turned the tables by stabbing his attacker in the head and skinning him. He demands they tremble with fear, but Heido, Einstein and Newton are simply amused. He stares in shock, wondering why they are laughing. The soldier stands, seemingly unharmed by the knife in his head. The masked man staggers back, unable to believe his opponent could retaliate. He is horrified, realizing the soldier shouldn't even be alive. The soldier announces that his body endured the attack, and now it is his turn. Funasaka Hiroshi reveals his true form and his talent, the undead soldier. His terrified opponent can only curse, calling him a monster. The masked man curses, realizing his attempt to turn the tables has failed. As he considers running into the alley, a voice warns him to think again. The alleyway is already occupied. A massive crowd of clones appears, the talent of Hans Dries. Dries says that although he won't object to a fight, he is weak individually. However, he believes his opponent may be able to take a few of his clones down. The silhouettes of the assembled returners loom over their target. The masked man realizes he is facing the Forest of the Great, the hunters of evil returners. Cornered by the returners, the man realizes his life, which had just started to get better with his new talent, is over. Heido notes with disgust that he's given up, and Funasaka asks if he should help him with his death. The man laments that he wanted to make more lampshades, belts, and socks out of humans. A single gunshot ends it. The group returns, and Newman congratulates them for arriving at the predicted time. Newman's talent for calculation is displayed as she confirms the collection of the branch. Newton feels a bit bad for their opponent, while Nightingale offers to heal anyone who is injured. Funasaka groans as he accepts Nightingale's offer of care. Nightingale embraces Funasaka, using her talent, Angel of Comfort, to heal him. Newton tells her off for being a perverted nurse, but she simply tells Funasaka she'll do her best. A shadowy figure asks Newton if he wants his wish to get hurt fulfilled. Einstein asks the others if they have seen Mesmer, as she wants to deal with the eyewitnesses. Hato finds Taoya working amidst a pile of monitors. She asks him what he's doing. Taoya turns to see Hato staring at him. Hato asks Taoya if Newman is making him do odd jobs again, but he explains he is positioning and wiring displays. He says he likes doing little tasks like this, though Hato thought he would want to do something great with his new talent. Newton explains that Taoya's work is a great help, and Hato expresses her happiness at having a new friend to play with. Einstein states that she is against gaining new comrades. She grips Newton's head angrily, causing him to cry out in pain. Einstein smacks Newton, accusing him of siding with Taoya because she hates men. Newton argues that the more important issue is that Taoya has a criminal's evil talent. Newman calmly explains that gaining the talent doesn't mean he will become the person from his past life, and that he is considered a hero thief by society. Einstein wonders aloud if he might be the type of man to steal away a branch. Hato hugs a stiff Einstein, telling her she has approved of Taoya and they should just see how it goes. Taoya reports to Newman that he has organized everything she requested. Newman and Newton agree that Taoya is very strong-willed, not at all bothered by their arguing. Newman is glad Taoya works fast, but he insists he still has more to do. Newman advises Taoya that while his enthusiasm for his new talent is fine, haste makes waste. She adds that his living environment has changed drastically and his body and mind are surely exhausted. Taoya agrees to listen to the wise words of the mathematical and logical Newman. Newman reminds him that the talent obtained from the cycle of rebirth is a blessing meant to be used for the benefit of humanity. She states that this is the doctrine of the Forest of the Great, and Taoya affirms that he understands. Newman instructs Einstein to take Taoya home, but Hato announces she will go with him, while telling Hato to finish her job first. A close-up shows the intricate branch-like weapon. As Taoya walks away, he ponders the meaning of the Forest of the Great. Taoya is startled by the shout of thief. A woman cries out for someone to catch the man who stole her purse. Newman calls, having predicted that the current conditions are perfect for his talent. She confirms he is going to act, but advises him not to be too spirited as he is still new to this. The thief gloats that robbery at night is easy. He angrily tells Taoya to get out of the way, threatening to send him flying. Taoya's arm, covered in swelling patterns, extends towards the thief. He stands calmly as the thief rushes past him. Taoya's patterned hand reaches for the stolen purse. His hand makes contact, phasing through the thief. He successfully retrieves the contents of the bag. The thief continues running, completely oblivious to what just happened. Taoya reveals the full extent of his power, Ishikawa Gomen's talent, the right hand of thieves. The woman berates Taoya, complaining that boys nowadays are so weak for not catching the thief. He tells her there's no need to worry because he already got her stuff back. He returns a bunch of her belongings to her. She calls him an idiot, exclaiming that the expensive bag was more important than its contents, and takes her things back. As she runs off, Taoya sighs that women are hard to deal with. Blood drips from Taoya's hand onto the ground. Newman praises Taoya's splendid execution, noting that he stole the thief's blood to make him faint, and states this is how evil should be corrected. Taoya contemplates the idea of benefiting humanity and concludes that he has no interest in it. Taoya explains that he is only in the Forest of the Great because he is interested in talents. He thinks it is a shame that the talent he obtained after preparing for death was simply robbery. He had hoped for something more, a grander talent like that of a visionary, scholar, politician, or artist. He remembers being told he had no talents in his past lives, which is better than nothing. But now that he thinks about it, he wonders if this isn't the perfect talent for someone like him, who is always jealous of others. He decides that for now, he should concentrate on perfecting this talent, because as long as he has this talent, he can use it any way he wants. As the clock ticks towards morning, Taoya Senji's eyes snap open. He sits up, greeted by Newman's voice from a nearby device. Newman notes that Taoya woke up without an alarm, which makes waking him up boring. Taking it as a compliment, Taoya asks what his job is for the day, noting that he stayed up late studying again. Today's job is the expulsion of an evil returner. As Taoya gets dressed, Newman explains that extracting an evil talent is the highest and most honorable duty of the Forest of the Great. Taoya agrees that it sounds much more interesting than his previous jobs of inspecting equipment and performing maintenance. Newman dismisses Taoya's previous work, stating it can't be helped since his talent is rather useless. The target is identified as John Gacy, a murderer known as the Killer Clown, who is attempting another atrocity. Taoya's mission is to stop him immediately. He acknowledges the order. Taoya remarks that it's good timing as he has some things he wants to try. Just then Newman announces their arrival, catching a startled Taoya completely off guard. Taoya finds himself standing in front of his school. Newman confirms his location, but clarifies that their business lies elsewhere. Taoya admits that while it's true he hasn't been to school since gaining his talent a week ago, he never had much affection for the place to begin with and isn't feeling nostalgic. They arrive at the school's dojo, and Taoya wonders what they need there. Newman instructs him to go inside. Newman explains that the kendo club is deserted. Since Taoya's, right hand of thieves, talent isn't suited for battle, he will always be accompanied by another person on expulsion missions. As Taoya opens the door, Newman apologizes for the incomplete nature of his fellow returners. Inside, Taoya surveys the room. He notices the practice equipment. He observes that it is well used, and the room is free of dust. Realizing someone is here, he calls out to a person named Yahello, telling her to wake up and get moving. Taoya's call rouses a sleeping girl from her bed. Rubbing her eyes, Yahello LaBuffet slowly sits up. Yahello sleepily thanks Taoya for coming to get her again. Newman's voice chides her for her slovenly state, saying Musashi's talent is crying. Yahello explains she was practicing useless things until midnight. Newman tells her to quit jabbering and prepare for her mission. As she begins to change, Taoya averts his eyes while she tells him to say something. Taoya realizes with surprise that Yahello must actually live in the dojo. While waiting outside, Taoya reflects on the rumors he's heard about Yahello, including one about her destroying the kendo club and taking over the building. He wonders why she would choose the dojo. Newman confirms there are many rumors about her, though most are baseless gossip. Newman lists several rumors, from her being able to split a leaf into 8 pieces to killing people on secret orders. Just then Yahello emerges, apologizing for the wait. Taoya thinks that at least the rumor about destroying dojos seems false, as he feels she is very faithful to the sword. Yahello, having overheard, becomes gloomy and asks if it's true that Taoya thinks she's evil and inhuman. She admits she's downright rotten. Taoya confirms that the rumor is true. Yahello clarifies that it was only one place. She tells him it's time to go, and he agrees. She gives him a sudden, intense stare. Taoya is left confused by her expression. As they walk, Taoya asks Newman how far they are from the target. Newman replies that the possibility of a crime is nil until tomorrow, but they can get there instantly if they ask Ain. Taoya suggests they walk and talk instead. Yahello offers to tell him why she wanted a talent. Newman calls this unproductive. Yahello insists that she wants Taoya to know, but only if he wants to listen. Yahello begins her story, explaining that she wasn't born with her incredible talent. She was just a normal person before obtaining Miyamoto Musashi's ability. Taoya internally scoffs, thinking her gray hair, gray eyes, and foreign name are anything but normal. He assumes she's from a wealthy immigrant family. Yahello corrects his unspoken assumption, revealing that she was abandoned as a child and raised in an orphanage. The revelation shatters Taoya's perception of her. Taoya awkwardly apologizes for his thoughtless pose, urging her to continue. She describes how the staff pretended not to see the bullying, which made her cry every single day. She explains that it was awful there. Because her hair and eyes were different, she was an easy target for the other children. One day, a man found her crying and told her to stop her boo-hooing. As he stretched out his hand, he invited her to his place to beat some guts into her. This man who adopted her was an instructor at a neighborhood dojo, carrying on his family's unbroken lineage of kendo masters. He faced strong opposition from his followers for adopting someone like her. He had her call him Dad and taught her the way of the sword. He eagerly taught her. One day she thought that becoming a full-fledged swordsman would be the perfect way to repay him. Then she could proudly say she became fine because of him. Unfortunately, she had no talent for the sword. It was then that she first heard rumors of a branch of Rin, an urban legend that no one had ever held, so she searched for it. Feeling like she was grasping at straws, she searched for it. She thought it would be a perfect solution if she could just attain a talent. With Musashi's genius sword skill, she easily surpassed her dad. However, due to the pain from the initial charge and his injury, her dad was no longer able to hold a sword. Because of this, the dojo had to close, and she was excommunicated for the violation of defeating her dad. Because of all that happened, she declares her desire to quickly become a perfect returner. She explains that if she goes back to being Musashi, she can reopen the dojo. Taoya, confused, asks what exactly a perfect returner is. Newman interjects that he should be informed. Hato decides to make him guess, confident that someone as intelligent as Taoya can figure it out quickly. After careful deliberation, Taoya gives in. He asks for a hint. Newman provides a hint. Currently, aside from Taoya and Hato, everyone in the Forest of the Great is a perfect returner. Taoya ponders the common feature. His first guess is that they all dress weirdly. Hato laughs, admitting he's not wrong. Newman then asks if he has realized why they all dress so strangely. A sudden realization dawns on Taoya. He's never seen those returners change back to their original forms. Newman explains that all returners have a limit. After a certain amount of time passes, they return to their original form. However, for some returners, there is no limit because of repetition. These are the perfect returners, and they are shown respect by being called by the name of their previous incarnations. Taoya acknowledges that he's noticed they already call Hato Musashi. Hato says that's why she wants to hurry and become perfect so she can meet her dad with her head held high. Newman cuts the chat short, warning them to be vigilant as they are about to enter an ambush point. Taoya looks up and sees ropes spread across the trees. His device shows the signal jumping left and right, indicating their target is moving rapidly. A sinister laugh echoes as their target appears. He welcomes the little boy and girl. Dressed as a clown, he leaps onto the ropes, welcoming them to his murderous circus. Gacy taunts them for coming so unconcerned, just as the prophecy foretold. He calls them blockheads, revealing that the ropes and hidden items are all tools for his talent, fling killing. Confident that his close combat opponents are at a disadvantage in his hunting grounds, he declares it's time to raise the curtain. Hato leaps down to the forest floor. Gacy watches. A dark aura begins to slowly envelop her. He is stunned by her transformation. As she transforms, he finds himself mesmerized by the sight. He is unable to breathe or tear his eyes away. With an intense, crazed look in her eyes, Hato's transformation completes. Gacy feels himself being completely engulfed by her overwhelming presence. Hato unleashes her powerful sword technique, Ibitsu Naiten Ryaihu Idu Entetsu. The clown is defeated in a single, anticlimactic blow. Hato sighs in disappointment. Taoya is annoyed, exclaiming that she just defeated him in one hit when they were trying to give him some experience. He apologizes, admitting he didn't expect the target to go down so easily, and reflects on the powerlessness he felt while waiting for his analysis. Taoya observes that Hato's transformation is even more remarkable than before. Hato confirms that her reincarnation has developed one step further. She proudly declares to Taoya that she is now a perfect returner, not much farther from truly becoming Miyamoto Musashi. Taoya reflects that when Hato became Musashi, it didn't feel like he was talking to Hato anymore. He realizes that because of this, he was already paying his respects to her. She asks if it's all right for him to now tell her the reason he was so determined to attain a talent. Hato points out that since she was the only one who spoke earlier, it's not very fair if all he does is listen. Taoya agrees, thinking to himself that even though it's not cool to have a battle where you brag about bad luck. Hato smiles brightly. He knows that for them, there is no turning back. Unseen by the pair, a mysterious armed unit observes from the woods. Their commander orders a change of plans. The unit is to advance, changing their target tracking from Gacy to the two newly appeared individuals. Their purpose is to expose those of the scattered petals. Hato cries, feeling Taoya's past pain. She tells Taoya he must have had a hard time, being constantly compared to his genius brother. Taoya wonders why she is crying for him, noting her gentle nature. He internally clarifies that his brother has been dead for many years. Despite this, Taoya admits to himself that he has spent all those years trying his hardest to chase after him. Hato points out that the light is on in Taoya's room. Taoya immediately resolves to assault the potential criminal, citing a citizen's right to arrest. He dramatically throws the door open, warning the intruder not to move. Inside, a figure is startled by their sudden entrance. Taoya recognizes the man, muttering his brother's name in shock. He stands frozen, unable to process the situation. The man in the room, seemingly unbothered, looks over his shoulder and asks what they are doing. The man enthusiastically greets Taoya, playfully putting him in a headlock. He proudly presents a stack of magazines as a gift. Taoya dryly replies that he'll be throwing them out for recycling. Kitazuka remarks that Taoya's tired look hasn't changed, while Taoya thinks the same of him. He tells Taoya to drop the formalities and just call him Itsuki. A bewildered Hato asks Taoya to explain what is happening. The man introduces himself with a charming wink as Kitazuka Itsuki, age 28, and thanks Hato for looking after Taoya. Taoya whispers to Hato that they should just arrest the man, whom he calls a stranger. Itsuki pulls out a photo to prove their connection. He presents an old photograph featuring himself, a young Taoya, and Taoya's older brother. He points out each person in the photo, a small Taoya himself and Seiya. Itsuki proudly announces he already had it framed, much to Taoya's annoyance. He explains that he and Seiya were close, which makes Taoya like a brother to him too. He fondly recalls how Taoya always chased after Seiya, who always looked out for him. Hato expresses her confusion and disgust at Itsuki's strange behavior. Taoya quietly explains to Hato that Itsuki is a martial arts genius who has led a special unit from a young age. Hato asks why such a busy person would break into Taoya's empty room. Itsuki admits he was worried because he heard Taoya had been skipping school. Itsuki concludes that Hato must be Taoya's girlfriend and that he understands what Taoya's been going through. Taoya and Hato stand in awkward silence. They both become flustered and deny the assumption. Itsuki continues, saying it's a misunderstanding but that she's a beauty and it's good for Taoya. Taoya despairs as Itsuki refuses to listen to his explanation. Realizing words are failing, Taoya decides on another course of action. Taoya reveals his arm, now covered in the swirling patterns of his talent. Itsuki stares in shock, asking what happened to him. Hato explains to a confused Taoya that this is a recently acquired talent called theft. Taoya assures Hato that Itsuki is trustworthy and the type who would want a talent if he saw one. He then explains to Itsuki that Hato also has a talent and needed his help. Itsuki's face hardens, his eyes filled with a cold intensity. He asks if this is the rumored thing that's been going around, and Taoya confirms he knows of it. Hato feels the sudden oppressive tension and asks if this is about gaining a talent from a past life. A cruel smirk spreads across Itsuki's face. Itsuki dismisses the idea as utterly stupid. He questions if Taoya gave up on his own future because he felt his current incarnation was weak. He posits that giving everything to a past life makes one a failure in their current one. Taoya quietly but firmly demands he take back his words. Hato moves in a flash, holding her blade to Itsuki's throat. Itsuki breaks into a nervous sweat. With intense anger, Hato asks if he is calling her a failure too. She tells him he doesn't know the first thing about their beliefs or the resolve they live by. Itsuki condescendingly calls her a weakling. Hato transforms, her power manifesting as a dark aura. Itsuki's eyes gleam as he prepares to counter her attack. With a single swift movement, Itsuki slams Hato to the ground, completely overpowering her. Itsuki whispers that he held back only because he believes she is Taoya's girlfriend. He stands up and walks away. Taoya rushes to Hato's side, checking if she's all right and chastising Itsuki. Hato struggles to speak, having lost all her strength from the blow. She realizes she was struck with incomprehensible speed. Itsuki comments on his own innate talent. He calls Taoya a disappointment and announces his departure. As he leaves, he says that Seiya would be saddened to see Taoya's current state, and Taoya silently agrees. Taoya looks up with resolve, stating that he has no regrets. He vows to show everyone that he will surpass his brother. From the doorway, Itsuki tells him not to kid himself. Itsuki walks away down the street. He pauses for a moment before continuing on. Itsuki is revealed to be the leader of a heavily armed Special Forces unit. A soldier salutes, addressing him as captain, and Itsuki asks for a status update. Itsuki cancels the mission, ordering his troops to stand down as the target has escaped. He gets into a nearby car. The driver comments that it's a shame they didn't capture the valuable sample. In a bad mood, Itsuki tells him to just drive. He explains that this case has to do with his friend's little brother. The driver philosophizes that being tied down by personal feelings is what makes one human. Itsuki muses on why the intelligent Taoya would get involved with something like reincarnation. He doesn't believe Taoya would normally fall for such things. He remembers Taoya's declaration of having no regrets. He questions what could be motivating Taoya to this degree. A memory of Seiya asking him to take care of Taoya comes to mind. Itsuki kicks the dashboard in frustration, cursing Seiya for forcing this on him. The driver remarks that recent events unfolded just as someone predicted. Itsuki grunts in affirmation. He adds that because of that person's predictions, he's now in a foul mood. The scene changes to a secure facility, where soldiers from the Black Edge unit guard a cell. The captive is revealed to be Nostradamus, the great prophet, who comments that events unfolded just as he foresaw. Itsuki finds it annoying that Nostradamus acts so high and mighty despite being a prisoner. Nostradamus claims that even his imprisonment is a result of his prophecies. Itsuki admits that despite his annoyance, Nostradamus's predictions have all been accurate. Itsuki reveals the knife, confirming that it's what reincarnators use to draw out their talent. Nostradamus identifies the blade as the branch of reincarnation. He adds a warning that the item is not as simple as it seems. Itsuki states that there are too many unknown secrets about reincarnators and their tools. He tells Nostradamus that he needs to share everything, though he can refuse. Itsuki reveals a tray of gruesome tools, implying that Nostradamus will eventually talk. Nostradamus identifies Itsuki's group as the Black Edge Unit, an organization of geniuses. He reveals they acquired the branch after killing a reincarnator. Itsuki comments on the immense combat talent within the unit, even among its children. Nostradamus dismisses them as merely human. Itsuki wonders what he is talking about. Nostradamus offers two prophecies, the first being his immediate and unharmed release. As Nostradamus speaks of his king, the handcuffs binding him break apart. The young man with Itsuki yells for the guards to stop him. The soldiers raise their rifles. They unleash a barrage of gunfire at Nostradamus. Nostradamus stands amidst the settling smoke, completely untouched. The young man is stunned that Nostradamus is unharmed. A soldier reports that it seemed the bullets actively avoided hitting him. Suddenly, a large shadowy creature attacks Nostradamus. Itsuki observes that the prophet was not entirely unharmed by the new attack. Nostradamus calmly states that he remains completely unharmed. Itsuki is confused, having felt the impact of the attack but seeing no result. Nostradamus turns to leave. Itsuki orders his men to stand down and let him go. He reasons that there is trickery involved and the risks of fighting are too high. As a parting shot, Nostradamus offers to embrace anyone who wishes to become a reincarnator. Itsuki asks if all reincarnators belong to the same faction under this king. He realizes the potential trouble if that's the case. Nostradamus confirms the existence of a faction. However, he calls it an organization of weaklings who can only function in a group. Suddenly, a new group appears, identifying themselves as the Gathering of the Greats. Newton, the man with the apple head, notes that it's rare for their existence to be known. Pol Pot taunts the unit for using numbers and ambushes. A soldier tells Newton to control himself. Pol Pot addresses Newton as king, as a rifle is pointed at him. Newton unleashes an attack, striking one of the soldiers. The unit asks their comrade Funasaka if he is all right. They realize the opponent has vanished. Pol Pot spots Newton high above them. Pol Pot thanks Newton for his assistance. The soldiers below are baffled by what they are seeing. Newton notices petals scattering and realizes the situation is dire. An immense, horrifying entity composed of countless eyes manifests as Nostradamus explains that this is the being they serve. This being is identified as the king of the reincarnators, possessing unimaginable power. In a meeting of the Gathering of the Greats, Newton, the apple-headed reincarnator, complains about a recent skirmish where he was almost turned into apple juice. Einstein retorts that he should have just become apple juice, to which he replies that he'd at least want to become jam. Another member mentions that half of someone named Funasaka was turned into meat paste. Newman confirms that a new organization of reincarnators, much like their own, has appeared. One of the members notes that the new enemy seems to know them and is hard to describe, appearing like black smoke. Taoya Senji reflects on the events of the previous day. A character with a Picasso-esque face urgently tells him to come see a painting. Taoya, preoccupied with the meeting, dismisses him, saying it can wait. The Picasso-like character insists that Taoya look. Someone suggests they ask Hato instead. Hato LaBuffet sits alone, looking troubled. Taoya approaches and asks if she is feeling ill. She quickly dismisses his concern, claiming she's just thinking about things. Taoya thinks about how Hato must have been shocked by yesterday's events, both physically and mentally. The Picasso-like character continues to pester him, insisting he come look. Taoya finally relents, telling Newman he'll be back in a moment as he's dragged away. He agrees to look at the grand work Picasso has created, though he notes that he'll be the one who has to clean it up. They stand before a massive, chaotic painting of black ink splattered across a wall of monitors, forming a monstrous figure with two large, staring eyes. Taoya remarks that it looks just like a certain person. Newton asks Newman and Einstein what it is, but they remain silent. Newman covers her face, dismissing the question. A soldier tells them that if they know something, they must share it, as everyone is now a target. The ominous eyes from the painting stare out, prompting someone to ask what the thing is. Newman states she can't say anything until she confirms it. This uncertainty is unusual for her, implying the situation is unpredictable. The others reason that even if she can't identify the threat, she should be able to tell them how to deal with it. They acknowledge the possibility of an unknown number of reincarnators with unknown talents joining the fray. Their past skirmish missions have been against their supposed companions, whom they had to exterminate as enemies. Newman declares that for the upcoming skirmish mission, the Gathering of the Greats will deploy a large number of units to destroy their target. A voice laments that if only there were no evil talents. Amidst a field of impaled bodies, a hooded figure identified as Vlad III sits on a makeshift throne, stating that they act for their beliefs. The Gathering of the Greats confronts another group in a forest. Vlad notes they brought more people this time, assuming they are here to battle again. Newton asks if they are there to surrender like the two from yesterday, while another member suggests they call out for their companion again. Vlad scoffs at the idea. He challenges them to fight without their special ambush tactics. Vlad unleashes his talent, Lord Impaler, and countless spikes erupt from the ground, skewering his opponents. He declares that he alone is enough to handle them. In response to 4 of his men being killed, Gaius Julius Caesar calmly decides to add 6 more. He activates his replicator talent. More soldiers are created from a liquid substance. Vlad dismisses the move as a useless trick, claiming numbers mean nothing against him. As the battle rages, Taoya watches from a distance. He receives a message on his phone. In a flashback, Newman explains their strategy, split into 3 groups to deal with the impact of the unknown reincarnator. The vanguard will engage the target in a seesaw battle for 10 minutes to allow for analysis. Simultaneously, the rearguard will provide support and stay alert for the unknown reincarnator. The third group is the recon unit, and the information they acquire will allow predictions to be even more accurate. Taoya is shocked to learn he is the only member of this unit. Einstein tells the non-combatant not to say things that will lower morale and to do his recon job well. Taoya vows to be hidden like a shadow and do his best. Newton encourages him to show some ambition. Hato watches him silently. Hato reflects on her conversation with Taoya, where they confessed their pasts to each other. She had thought she found a companion, but now feels she doesn't understand him. She recalls that he's always been treated as fodder. He's constantly insulted by his own companions for the very talent he worked so hard to acquire. She had expected someone with more ambition and wonders if she's asking for too much. Taoya gives a confident thumbs up. Hato sees this with wide, surprised eyes. Taoya wears a dark, confident smile. Another reincarnator, likely Musashi, tells Hato to focus as they are in the middle of a battle. Hato agrees, telling herself to concentrate. She continues to dodge Vlad's relentless attacks. Vlad's shadowy figure continues its relentless assault. One of the fighters who prefers offense finds it difficult to get close enough for a proper fight and resolves to just do her best and attack. Taoya contacts her through her device, telling her not to be so hasty. Hato notes that as long as they have a target, everything is fine, as they are currently analyzing Vlad's talent. Taoya observes that Vlad seems to be staying in one location and waiting. He is like a snake hiding in the bushes. Hato acknowledges that it's a good strategy, even though it seems easy. She notes that his impales can extend without limit, making them very difficult to evade. The battle intensifies as the vanguard finds themselves in a dire predicament, surrounded by Vlad's spikes. Vlad seems to sense a change in the tide. Vlad is confident, believing that as long as he defends his position, his opponents can never enter. He thinks that even if they manage to fly in, his impales will still be able to handle them. He wonders if he was overthinking things, but a nagging feeling tells him his enemies might know something he doesn't, turning the battle into a contest of endurance. Suddenly, an arm with a swirling pattern phases through one of Vlad's spikes, reaching for him. Vlad is shocked, thinking it's foolishness as there should be a wall behind him. Hato recognizes that hand. The ability is revealed as Taoya's right arm of the thief. Taoya stands with the arm activated, a ship in a bottle before him. In a flashback, his companions watch, asking if he's showing his talent as a sign of good faith. He uses his arm to pull a ship out of a bottle. The ship is now outside the bottle. After pulling the ship from the bottle, Taoya holds it in his hand. His companions are amazed, calling it magic, but others dismiss it as completely pointless. Taoya explains his right arm of the thief is a talent that ignores all outside influences to steal. Its range is only 70 centimeters and it has no extra combat ability, but using it for pranks is lethal. The explanation continues. Once a target is within its effective range, the arm can completely ignore everything else and steal whatever it targets, even if it's inside something else. It could, for example, steal a person's heart right out of their chest. Back in the present, Taoya's hand strikes Vlad. Taoya states coolly that he waited 10 minutes before he acted. The formidable reincarnator collapses, his weapon clattering to the ground. Hato is shocked, wondering if Taoya killed him with such a talent. The other members of the gathering are impressed, with one saying they've changed their opinion of him. Vlad's hand twitches on the ground. Taoya looks at his phone, which shows a warning. He warns everyone not to approach carelessly. Vlad begins to stir, confirming he is still alive. Vlad gets to his feet, mocking Taoya as a newbie reincarnator. He remarks that Taoya is not used to his ability and let the chance to kill him go, calling it the stupidest decision possible. Taoya watches silently, his hand still glowing. Vlad declares it's execution time, and that he'll let them all experience his impales firsthand. Taoya stands firm as an ominous presence materializes. A shadowy figure with countless eyes appears behind him, startling him. The shadowy entity appears, and one of the reincarnators orders the rearguard to move forward. Hato yells at Taoya that he can't, telling him to read the situation. Taoya faces the entity and states he won't kill it if it stays quiet and still. Vlad, now revealed as Teeps, bows before the entity, calling it my king. The entity, crying, tells Teeps to stand down. The gathering of the greats stands ready as their opponents retreat behind them. The king stands opposite them, surrounded by an aura of dark, watching eyes. The king greets them with a cheerful long time no see, asking how they're doing. He notes that Einstein hasn't changed and is still hiding behind others. He asks if Picasso is drawing, adding that he likes his drawings. He observes that Newman seems to have fixed her habit of being a neat. He remarks nostalgically that it started with just the 5 of them, and now they have so many companions. Hato thanks him. The gathering is perplexed, noting he sounds familiar like an acquaintance. They note he's a member of the Gathering of the Greats, but they've never seen him before, and he has no killing intent. The king's tone shifts, stating it's a shame and that he must destroy the Gathering of the Greats. He asks if they still talk about benefiting humanity. He questions their nobility and their casual categorization of talents as good or evil. He declares that the talents themselves will weep for this. Surrounded by his followers, including Pol Pot and Nostradamus, the king declares that talents are things with so much more freedom to them. Taoya realizes reinforcements have arrived. The king's followers decide to retreat, with Nostradamus cautioning his king not to push himself too hard. The king announces that this time, he will be the one doing the releasing. He and his followers vanish. Taoya wonders if the ability is similar to Einstein's. Newton asks Newman about the man who just disappeared. Newman reveals that the king's 2 pupils in one eye, pupilla duplex, are his testament. He is Ku, the Tyrant King, a reincarnator who wields the apex talent of combat. More shockingly, he was one of the original companions who created the Gathering of the Greats once upon a time. In a past memory, a man encourages a shy Albert Einstein to step forward, telling her that after acquiring her talent of spatial translocation, it's time for her to use her own eyes to sense the world around her. The memory continues with the group together. A man coaxes Einstein forward while Newman looks on. Others tease Einstein for being annoying and suggest they should introduce themselves first. A flustered Einstein happily declares she likes fighting, spacing out, and drawing, much to the confusion of those around her. An enraged Einstein smashes a monitor. She screams, demanding to know why that bastard is still alive. Newman calmly asks why Einstein is so upset. Newton tries to calm Einstein, whom he calls the king of pippins. Einstein screams at him to stay away from her. She insults him, saying he is the same sex as the bastard she hates. Hadollah Buffett grabs the distraught Einstein, pleading with her to take deep breaths and calm down. Adolf Hitler and Newton observe the total disarray, wondering what happened between them. Newman announces their new mission. They are going to eradicate coup. Newman declares that this is the most important mission for the gathering of the greats right now, giving them 1 month to decide. She explains that the person in question is too dangerous and that she will calculate his hiding place. Newton observes that Newman is not so calm herself and questions if she is being too hasty. Newman replies that she would still like to listen to Einstein's reasons and doesn't want to make a fuss. She explains that the gathering of the greats wasn't always so massive, it began with only 5 of them. While Hato tries to calm Einstein, Newman continues her story. They were just 5 reincarnators who were a good fit for each other, all bewildered by their talents, who tried to find similar companions. She continues, describing the one who brought them all together. He was a selfless person who never spoke of his own issues but always tried to help others. With a fond smile, Newman remembers him as a very, very stupid man. This founder believed that their talents were gifts from heaven meant to be used for the benefit of humanity. Taoya remarks to Newton that this grand ideal became the foundation for the gathering's beliefs. Newman scoffs, calling the words laughable like a joke. Hitler interjects that he believes everyone understands what he's talking about. Newman concludes that the talents the reincarnators hold are massive in scale and their impact depends on how they are used. With these talents, threats like wiping out humanity or destroying the world are not empty. Newman explains that this is why the founder thought that the stronger a talent is, the more careful one needs to be when using it. Newton, inspired by this story, excitedly asks who this great person could be, while Hato tries to silence him. Newman gravely states that the founder was killed by coup, stunning the others. Newman states that from Ku's point of view, benefiting humanity is pointless because he loves conflict. Hato excitedly asks Taoya just how strong Ku is. Taoya explains that from a historical perspective, it's not far from the truth to say Ku is the strongest human ever, with many legends about him. Newman elaborates that his talent, the omnireceptacle, is probably the strongest among all reincarnators, and he will be harder to deal with once his injuries heal. Hato looks on with an expression of anticipation. Newton concludes that this means they must defeat Ku and his reincarnators as fast as possible. Newman repeats that Ku loves conflict. She says her predictions are confirmed based on how Newton and Funisaka survived their recent encounters. She explains that Ku has gathered history's greatest sinners to recreate a hell on Earth of epic proportions, and Taoya realizes this means his army is composed of major sinners from the past. Einstein seethes, calling Ku an unforgivable, evil being who loves this sort of thing. She declares that she thought she gave him a lethal strike, but she will make sure to kill him next time. Taoya quietly considers her vow to get him next time. Newman, reading Taoya's thoughts again, explains that when they removed Ku from their gathering, they also launched a fierce attack on him. She reveals they all thought they had killed him, but he survived. His wounds are deep, so he must have retreated to heal. Einstein resolves to finish Ku off before he has a chance to heal. She declares she's going to kill him now, but Hato tries to stop her, insisting she can't go alone. Newton steps in front of her, saying her plan is too reckless. Enraged, Einstein challenges him, questioning if he thinks he can stop her by himself. Newton offers himself as a target, telling Einstein to beat him up as much as she wants. He says she can keep punching him until she's calmed down, admitting he's not clear on how much she hates Ku. He adds that he doesn't know how close she was to the person she lost to him. However, he insists he can't have her acting emotionally without thinking clearly. Newton explains that if she acts solo without knowing the enemy's location or assets and they lose her, their combat ability will plummet. Einstein furiously punches Newton. Overwhelmed and in tears, Einstein screams at him to shut up, yelling that she already knows all of this. Newton tells her not to treat this as her own private matter. Hitler reasons that it's precisely because the enemy is strong that they must all fight together, questioning how they could lose with abilities like immortality and gravity manipulation. Newman agrees, stating that as long as they stand united, they will win. She declares this a grand chance to cleanse these evil talents and urges everyone to do their best. The group cheers in agreement, ready for battle. Newton gives a thumbs up, asking if everyone is okay. A still annoyed Einstein tells them to mind their own business. Standing alone on a bridge, Taoya Senji drops a stone into the water. He reflects that the battle has begun. He knows that although it's called a battle, it's just a fight to the death, something their opponents are good at. It is a final battle between the gathering of the greats and the Sinner army led by Ku. In a flashback, Einstein approaches Taoya, asking him to listen calmly to what she has to say about his future. Taoya asks why she is being so formal, as she explains the scale of the coming battle is far greater than any before. She says that while having many assets is good, the mortality rate for reincarnators with less fighting ability is too high, and she plans to convince others not to join. She coldly tells him it means he should clamp his tail between his legs and scamper away. She calls him useless, much to Newton's dismay, who protests that they just got everyone fired up. Einstein tells Taoya he's just a rookie reincarnator who can't hold his reincarnate state for long and doesn't have full control over his talent. Taoya acknowledges that he also recognized this fact during his battle against Vlad. Newton tries to intervene, telling Taoya not to mind her because she's just worried about his personal safety. Einstein furiously shoves Newton away, telling him to stay away from her. As Taoya stands on a walkway, a cloaked figure approaches from the shadows. The figure, Lord Vlad, snarls that he has finally found the thief. Taoya recognizes his pursuer as Lord Vlad. Taoya calmly uses his phone, asking Vlad what he's doing out at this hour. Vlad questions if he's a vanguard for Ku's army. He roars at Taoya to give it back, asking if he's there to avenge his second failure. Vlad calls Taoya a shameless thief and asks if he's playing with him. He furiously accuses Taoya of seeing his chance the other day and stealing his talent. A sinister smile spreads across Taoya's face. Taoya takes a step towards Vlad. He asks if Vlad told anyone about this, to which Vlad furiously replies that he would never speak of his eternal shame. Taoya remarks that this is perfect, and to prevent the information from spreading, he will deal with Vlad. He declares that he will have to make Vlad disappear. He activates his power, his hands glowing with a dark, swirling energy. With a menacing grin, Taoya commands Vlad to disappear right now. Taoya reveals his talent, the left arm of the thief. This power allows him the usage of stolen goods. He then unleashes Vlad's own talent, Lord Impaler, turning the devastating power against its original owner and killing him instantly. Taoya reveals that his talent, the arms of the thief, is a pair, a right arm for thievery and a left arm for usage. He explains that he fooled his companions by only showing his right arm, making them think his talent could only steal objects while hiding its true value. Depending on the usage of the talent. As Vlad's body vanishes, Taoya thanks him. He explains that Vlad allowed him to test out his arm before the big battle and tells him to rest easy as he inherits his talent. He muses that the stolen talents can have a myriad of effects, all to be utilized with greater power in his hands. Taoya reflects that the battle has started. He considers this a fantastic opportunity, thankful for his enemies and the companions who look down upon him. He thinks that even among his own companions, there are many talents that he wants. He sees a chaotic fight as his best chance. He'll defeat enemies head-on and stab companions in the back, stealing any useful talent he finds. When he has stolen all the talents, his own will become the ultimate talent, encompassing the entirety of history. He eagerly anticipates this outcome, certain that this is how he will finally surpass his brother. The one laughing at the end won't be the greats or the sinners. Taoya plans to move stealthily across the battlefield, as everyone has their own reasons to fight and fulfill their own ambitions. It will be May. The gathering of the greats mobilizes. Having located their target, the chaos-loving reincarnator Ku, they prepare for a large-scale operation to eradicate him. In his room, Taoya Senji notes how quickly the research was completed, remarking that he still has preparations to make. Heido LaBuffet feels her blood boil with excitement for the coming battle. Heido, already in her reincarnate state, greets Taoya casually. Taoya tells Heido to at least use the entrance, noting she is already prepared for battle. She notices he looks unwell and asks if he has been up all night. He reassures her that he is fine as a hand rests on his shoulder. Heido tells Taoya and Seiya Senji that it is time to go. In a flash of light, Albert Einstein uses her talent, spatial translocation, instantly teleporting the trio from their room to a desolate, rocky landscape. Taoya looks around, wondering where they are. Heido explains this is the hideout for the gathering of the greats and that they are no longer in Japan, handing Taoya his shoes. Taoya takes in the scene, noticing a large assembly of reincarnators he has never seen before. A man in a toga, Gaius Julius Caesar, boisterously greets Heido, calling her Musashi. He barrels towards her for a hug, with Taoya caught in the middle. Caesar tells Heido she is still a good girl, just like in the past. Undeterred, Caesar then propositions Heido, asking her to spend the night with him. In response to Caesar's advance, Heido draws her unique spine-like blade. She clashes with another swordswoman in a flurry of movement. The other swordswoman, Yajujube, chides Heido for getting distracted by men like Caesar. Heido calmly responds that it is great Yajujube is still so energetic. She asks the dazed Taoya and Caesar if they are able to stand. She then introduces herself to Taoya as Yaju Mitsuyoshi, apologizing for him getting caught up in all this. Caesar grabs Taoya, loudly introducing himself and addressing Taoya as Brutus, much to Taoya's confusion. Yajujube retorts, calling Caesar a noisy, bald, perverted king of borrowing money. The apple-headed Newton advises Taoya to ignore the spectacle, remarking that this disaster is typical. Taoya asks Newton about the large gathering. Newton explains that this is the expedition team of the greats, reincarnators from outside the country brought here with Newman's help to gather all combat assets. Taoya marvels at the sight, realizing this is the full might of the gathering of the greats. Someone remarks that it is something to behold so many historical talents in one place. A roster of the assembled historical talents is displayed, including Newman, Newton, Einstein, Miyamoto Musashi, Heido, and Ishikawa Gomen Taoya. Bobby Fischer is introduced with his talent, the play's almighty. More members are shown, including the Wright brothers, Simo Heiha, Schrödinger the cat, Caesar, and Darwin. Yaju Jube is shown with her talent, the extremes of an inch. Einstein reports to a wheelchair-bound Newman that all members are present. Einstein yells for everyone's attention. Newman addresses the assembled greats, announcing that they will now proceed with strategizing against the Sinner army. Newman projects an image of a massive, ominous fortress, identifying it as the residence of Ku and his sinners. Newman explains that the castle and its walls appeared just 2 days ago, likely the work of the enemy's reincarnators, and made to face their assault. She credits Google Maps for the intel, surprising some of the greats. Their objective is singular and clear, to remove the head of Ku. Newman presents a map of the area, created from the Wright brothers' reconnaissance. Newman lays out the map. They are at the gate. Beyond it lie 2 paths, heaven and earth, which lead to the main castle where Ku will be waiting. The group discusses the implications, noting that the limited routes increase the chance of encounters and that Ku has likely prepared traps. To counter the enemy's prepared defenses, she proposes 4 distinct approaches for their assault. Heido questions why Newman is joining the battle on the front lines instead of giving orders from the hideout. Newman states she must be present at the battlefield herself, as the radio situation is unfavorable for issuing commands. However, Bobby Fischer scoffs, declaring himself the strongest strategist and refusing to listen to her commands. Schrödinger suggests that instead of forced cooperation, they should all use their own methods to remove Ku's head. Caesar eagerly supports Schrödinger's opinion, while Einstein objects to their interjections. Caesar proposes they all compete to take Ku's head as a prize, and to Taoya's horror, the others seem to agree. Taoya reflects that the expedition team is bloodthirsty and full of themselves, and while their combat ability might be high, their unity is weakened. He sees this as a good sign for his own plans. Seeing the disarray, Newman declares that the attackers will organize themselves and choose one of the 4 routes, and she will adjust for any power imbalances. Taoya contemplates his next move. Taoya's true objective is revealed in his thoughts. He is not aiming for victory but to steal as many talents as he can amidst the battle's chaos. He reasons that he cannot follow the main path, as fighting alongside the greats would be too risky. He concludes that his best strategy is to go solo and move within the forest to decrease the chances of his robberies being discovered. To do so, he must listen closely to Newman's instructions to keep all movements within his grasp. Funisaka Hiroshi volunteers to go along the earth path and suppress the branch, then proceed to the main castle. Taoya reflects that Funisaka's undead talent is one he must acquire. Funisaka then requests partners. To Taoya's shock, Funisaka requests that he, Ishikawa Gomen, and Faba join him as partners. Taoya is left speechless. Taoya is stunned by the selection, asking why he was chosen. While Caesar questions Funisaka's motives and Heido laments their separation, calling men scum. Funisaka states that the reason is because he is personally interested in Taoya. Newman agrees to the pairing, remarking she is open-minded. Taoya is left to wonder how things ended up like this. This unexpected development has completely derailed his plans to act alone. Taoya panics, wondering how to explain a forceful rejection. In his shock, he did not even hear the rest of the team assignments as Newman announces the distribution is complete. The camp defense team consists of Newman, Nightingale, the Wright brothers, Simo Heiha, and Dries. The forest invasion team includes Darwin, Schrödinger, Bobby Fischer, Einstein, and Newton. The heaven root invasion team is comprised of Miyamoto Musashi, Yaju Jubei, and Caesar. The earth root invasion team consists of Funisaka Hiroshi, Faber, and a dejected Ishikawa Goemon. Newman warns them all not to be careless. With the team set, a final speech rallies the greats. They acknowledge the enemy's unknown strength but swear to wipe out the evil talents. Caesar orders Musashi and Jubei to destroy the gate. As they prepare, Yaju Jubei tells Taoya they will see each other at the main castle. Yaju Jubei playfully tells Taoya that by the time they meet again, her talent will be so powerful he will be desperate to steal it. Taoya watches her, his expression unreadable. She then laughs and says she is just kidding. Heito and Yaju Jubei face the massive gate. With their blades drawn, they rush forward in perfect sync. With a powerful, coordinated strike, the two swordswomen shatter the gate. The battle officially begins as the gathering of the greats makes its move. From the defense camp, Newman calmly notes that the operation has started. She addresses the Wright brothers, a pair of young women with flight goggles. Newman instructs them to deploy a device made by Edison. She tells them to use their accomplishment to call the sky. One of the Wright brothers confirms the order. Her hand grotesquely transforms, sprouting skeletal appendages. Using their talent, People of the Sky, the Wright brother takes flight, standing atop the device as it unfurls massive skeletal wings, ascending over the forest. The device continues to transform, extending its reach. An energy pulse radiates from a central point. Newman's expression is placid as she monitors the situation. Her eyes fill with binary code, indicating her calculation talent is active. Communication devices carried by the greats light up, displaying a bull-like insignia. Funisaka turns to Taoya and asks if he is worried. He specifies that he is asking about Musashi-san. Funisaka explains it's normal to miss her, suggesting they are in a relationship, which startles Taoya. Taoya is internally relieved, thinking for a moment that his plans had been exposed. Funisaka explains that he often sees a knowing look between the two of them and that he witnessed Musashi allowing Taoya to join. Funisaka asks what is wrong. Taoya expresses surprise, saying he thought Funisaka was the silent type who didn't care about others. Funisaka laughs, admitting he's not very good at expressing his feelings. He adds that since they have a rare opportunity to fight side by side, they should use it to increase their bond. The group continues their light-hearted banter. Funisaka notices Taoya has stopped and asks why. Taoya dismisses it as nothing. Internally, Taoya questions his own actions, realizing that deepening their relationship will make him hesitate. He realizes this bond will make him hesitate to kill him and take his talent. Funisaka decides to talk about something useful, mentioning he has been worried about one thing. He specifies that he's concerned about their companions from the expedition team. He notes they only did what they wanted during the strategy meeting, and that Faber, who is supposed to be on their team, is nowhere to be seen. Taoya sees an opportunity, thinking that if he can get answers about their talents and personalities, it will be worth the trouble. Funisaka realizes that Taoya is the only one who doesn't know the expedition members well. He tells Taoya there is no need to worry about them. Suddenly, a giant hand slams into the ground, violently throwing Taoya aside. A massive, muscular arm retracts from the crater it just created. Funisaka notes that they have finally encountered an enemy, and not just one. Taoya looks on in shock, trying to process how the enemy dodged and the sheer force of the attack that carved into the ground. The enemy thinks to himself that he is able to crush a stone wall with his hand, and he really wants to hear the sound of a human body being crushed. The cat-headed Schrödinger is alerted to the commotion. He swiftly draws his revolver. A new enemy welcomes the greats, stating that while he enjoys gambling, drinking, and women, he enjoys killing above all else. He challenges the cat-headed Schrödinger, telling him to draw the gun strapped to his leg if it isn't just for decoration. Elsewhere, a man in a long coat wonders about a noise he just heard. His attention is caught by a nearby deer. He identifies it as a fallow deer and reflects on how the species has prospered and adapted to environments all over the world. He thinks to himself that it's not good to get sidetracked by thoughts of evolution whenever he sees an animal. The deer is suddenly and violently killed. An unseen enemy laughs, remarking on the deer's bad luck for meeting him there. The enemy promises the deer a painful death. A monstrous, multi-eyed creature reveals itself, declaring that it is evil. Meanwhile, the Heaven Root team, consisting of Caesar, Hato, and Yaju, are on the move. Their path is interrupted by an unseen force. A twig in their path is cleanly sliced, signaling an enemy's presence. An enemy swordsman, surrounded by his followers, declares that he will accept their lives. Another reincarnator, Bobby Fischer, sighs that he's met enemies so soon, wishing he could have revealed his talent first. He contemplates running away but decides it would make him look bad. A giant, monstrous foot smashes into the ground, creating a massive crater. Bobby Fischer recoils from the shockwave. He wonders aloud if the ground really cratered in one stomp, or if the enemy's true body shape is hidden by their clothes. The enemy swordsman watches, questioning if this is the new arrival's talent. Newman reports that all teams have encountered enemies, and she is using her prediction calculation to guess their past lives. She identifies one as the Strangler, Albert de Salvo. Another is identified as James Hickok, the Cards of the Dead. The Red Ripper, Andre Chikatilo, is also among them. The Slayer, Okada Aizo. And finally, Elephant Foot, Jahangir. An aide asks Newman if they should inform the teams of a counter-strategy, noting the enemies are all infamous sinners with many subordinates. Newman calmly states that it is pointless. She explains that because they are all sinners, none of them will fall behind the others. Taoya analyzes the enemy, noting the intense focus on killing through strangling and the immense killing power, believing this to be the reincarnator of the Strangler de Salvo. He concludes that the enemy is a big enough threat on his own, and with others present, they will be suppressed at this rate. He wonders what to do, questioning if he should reincarnate as well, but hesitates at the thought of revealing his talent here. Funisaka tells Taoya that there is no need for him to use his talent. He explains that all they need to do is run and evade, and they will win once they have bought enough time. Funisaka stands with his arms wide open, seemingly welcoming the attack, as Taoya and another ally prepare to flee. The two gunslingers draw their weapons in a classic standoff. Schrödinger stands his ground as his enemies approach. Hickok flips his guns with flair. A barrage of gunfire erupts from Hickok's revolvers. Schrödinger dodges the bullets with fluid, cat-like movements, returning fire. His eyes are sharp and focused. Hickok is forced to dive and roll to avoid Schrödinger's shots. With smoke curling from his gun, Hickok calls Schrödinger a disappointment. He mocks Schrödinger for running, calling it a shameful display and saying he doesn't even want to know his name. Kneeling on the ground, Schrödinger retorts that those should be his lines. Hickok scoffs, saying he thought Schrödinger could surprise him with his talent, but in the end, it was just shooting fast. Hickok fires a shot that seemingly hits Schrödinger in the back. Schrödinger's body is thrown forward from the impact. Hickok mocks him, surprised he had the strength to talk back, and laughs at the idea of him being a great. He tells his underlings to go look for the next one, preferably someone with more bite. Schrödinger stands up, completely fine. Hickok is stunned, demanding to know why he is still alive when he was sure he had aimed for his head. He realizes his teammates were all suddenly killed. Each one was taken down with a single shot. Schrödinger notes that his opponent is a great, who also has a talent related to guns, and remarks that he can finally speak like a normal person. He introduces himself as Schrödinger, and offers to explain how his opponent is going to die. He asks Hickok if he has read about his cat. He explains the thought experiment. A cat in a sealed box is in an overlapping state of being both dead and alive until observed. He notes this is normally just a philosophical thought experiment. However, he explains that with the help of the petals, the probability is affected by parallel worlds, allowing him the freedom to make choices. Hickok is left completely confused. Hickok screams in frustration, declaring he doesn't understand it at all. Schrödinger stands calmly amidst the smoke from the missed shots. Hickok internally fumes, wondering how he could have missed when he was aiming seriously, thinking it impossible for none of his shots to land. Schrödinger explains that Hickok did kill him with his gun, but in a parallel world, a result existed where he wasn't killed, and he simply chose that outcome. He clarifies that the choice to avoid all the bullets still exists. Hickok is left speechless. Hickok is shocked into silence. Schrödinger coolly informs him that it is now his turn. Schrödinger admits that his own shooting skills are worthless. He adds that the killing power of a 9 parabellum is very limited. However, he declares that it is enough. With his eyes closed, Schrödinger takes aim. Hickok is baffled, wondering what his opponent plans to do with his eyes closed, and how he could possibly land a shot. Schrödinger explains that no matter how low his accuracy is, the choice of killing his opponent with one shot will always exist. He reveals his talent, the cat chooser. Proclaiming this is the power of the greats, he tells the sinner to fade away, as he is going to negate all possible choices of his survival. The soldiers' attacks prove useless against their monstrous foe. Bullets are crushed, and even grenades have no effect. From a distance, an observer notes the creature's astounding toughness. A soldier tells Taoya that stopping will only get them surrounded, and they must retreat in an orderly fashion. Taoya doubts that such a delaying tactic can work. He questions if they can really defeat a guy like DeSalvo. As they turn to flee, the creature bursts through the wall behind them. The monstrous creature lunges for the soldier, its massive hand outstretched. At the last second, Taoya shoves the soldier out of the path of the attack. Suddenly, a creature appears, boasting that its talent is to rip apart anything it touches. It declares that the man is next, and that it will instill fear in him before killing him, reveling in its own evil. Unfazed, the man asks if the creature is finished talking, accusing it of falling asleep during his speech. He remarks that the creature's perception of itself as evil is just its own opinion. Enraged, the creature lashes out, but the man dodges easily. The creature demands to know if it is truly evil, and tells the man to stop his drivel. The creature, now with its followers, vows that he won't be so lucky next time. The creature lunges forward, yelling to rip and tear. It swings its bladed arms, but its opponent leaps into the air. Shocked, the creature wonders how he was able to dodge in midair. He reveals a pair of large, insect-like wings. The creature laughs maniacally. His opponent reveals his talent, theory of evolution. He says his foe is getting him hyped up as he transforms, sprouting wings, hooves, and claws. The man explains that if you can't evolve, you will be eliminated. One can only survive through constant evolution. With his compound eyes, his opponent's movement seems slow. With the strength of carnivores and claws of raptors, the human body is brittle. With wings, the sky is his domain. He declares that in order to evolve, he gained his talent, the theory of evolution, and tells the inferior subspecies to be eliminated by history once more. Back at Taoya's location, the monstrous DeSalvo suddenly collapses. Taoya is shocked, wondering what happened since he didn't do anything. From a distance, another figure is seen, holding a needle-like weapon. Taoya watches in shock as another of the masked enemies falls to the ground. Soon, the entire group of assailants collapses. Taoya is left to wonder what is happening. The soldier praises Taoya for being immediately wary of potential poison in the air. He tells him not to worry. He then turns and thanks someone named Faber for their hard work. Taoya, confused, asks who Faber is. Taoya asks what's going on, admitting he's surprised because he didn't even see Faber. The soldier asks him to guess Faber's talent. Taoya speculates that since Faber is famous for his book of insects, he must have some sort of observation or searching ability. The soldier corrects him, stating that the talent is stealth. The soldier explains that Faber can observe insects and wildlife because he is very stealthy. His talent, Observer, allows him to completely hide his looks, smell, sound, and presence. This is why Faber could follow them without Taoya detecting him at all. He continues, revealing Faber's weapon is a needle injector with fatal insecticidal preservatives. With himself as the never-dying support and the never-discovered Faber as the attacker. They are a perfect combination. Taoya is lost in thought, realizing how fantastic Faber's talent is. Taoya realizes that with a talent rendering one undiscoverable, he could steal any talent he wants by combining it with his right arm of the thief. However, he laments that since he can't even sense Faber, he can't steal the talent and wonders how to draw him out. Meanwhile, Newman contacts Funasaka for a report. Funasaka replies that Taoya doesn't seem to notice they are watching him. Funasaka reports to Newman that there is nothing unusual about Taoya, other than lapsing into deep thought. Newman instructs him to continue watching closely. Funasaka begins to have his own doubts. He wonders to himself if Senji Taoya is really a spy. Newman lists Taoya's suspicious behaviors, including his strange actions and constant questions about talents. However, Funasaka believes he is innocent. He recalls how Taoya protected him just now. He notes that as an undead, it is his duty to be a shield, and that was the first time he was protected. Newman warns that it might be a ploy to gain his trust. Newman instructs Funasaka not to let his guard down and to know what to do the moment he is sure Taoya is a spy. Funasaka grimly acknowledges that he does. Hato LaBuffet is not fired up at all. She yells at Jubei for picking strong opponents instead of holding them back like Caesar. Caesar playfully asks if she wasn't the one who told him to handle them. Flustered, Hato insists she just wanted to leave the interesting ones for last. Caesar tells them they're both cute and shouldn't fight, then cheekily tells them to continue. Another woman comments that she likes forceful women. She then stops a fallen enemy from getting back up. A figure thanks Rook and Queen for their hard work, remarking that sinners aren't interesting. They then give the order to kill them all. As clocks tick, the remaining masked sinners are systematically eliminated, their bodies left strewn across the ground. From a dark, towering hole, a powerful entity watches the carnage. It encourages the violence, telling the sinners to keep approaching and keep killing. Nostradamus reports to his king that there is news from Whitman. He explains their companions are being killed one after another, and that striking without a strategy is a waste. The king tells him to spare the prophecy, stating that everything is under control. Nostradamus details how Newman's radar is astounding, exposing their locations, ambushes, and traps. Nostradamus suggests that if they are being watched to this degree, he should be allowed to kill them. Charlotte Corday asks if she should use her talent to assassinate the greats. Adolf Hitler tells her there is no need to dirty her hands. She explains that they have already blown their surveillance drone from the sky. A sniper readies his rifle, declaring that victory is already assured for their side. From atop a clock tower, he takes his position. He declares that in order to respond to his king's expectations and to avenge his companions, he will shoot them down. His talent is revealed, a shooting as precise as clockwork. He fires a shot. Below, Taoya looks up, wondering if he heard a gunshot. The sniper is stunned, he missed. He questions how it's possible, as his talent allows him to never miss as long as he fires along with the clock. Suddenly, he sees another projectile intercepting his bullet's path. The sniper realizes his bullet was struck by another, meaning someone is protecting his target. In the sky, Newman communicates that it's the Wright brothers, and it feels like they're being attacked. Another voice tells them not to worry and to just keep hovering. Their flight, it is said, will be protected by death. A new sniper is revealed, a woman in white. The first sniper recognizes her in shock as the legendary sniper, Simo Heiha, the White Death. A sniper duel begins. The man calls Simo a fitting opponent. His shot is blocked again. He wonders if she is making her shots based on the sound of gunfire. He dismisses it as impossible since a bullet travels 3 times the speed of sound and questions how she can possibly keep up with the timing. Newman asks if they can see the enemy's position on a balcony on the main castle, near the clock tower. She identifies him as Charles Whitman, a sinner known for a random shooting incident. She asks Simo if she needs her to calculate the enemy's bullet trajectory and talent. Simo simply replies that there is no need. She intercepts another shot. Whitman realizes his opponent is making her shots based on the muzzle flare of his gun, instantly correcting her aim to match his bullet's timing. He concludes she must have monstrous visual acuity, concentration, and terrifying sniper skills. He finds himself getting fired up. He still believes that this level of talent cannot possibly match his own precise shooting. A vast snowy landscape unfolds, with Simo Heiha kneeling in the distance taking aim. Whitman is suddenly transported to the same snowy landscape. He is completely bewildered, wondering where he is. He recalls being on the clock tower just a moment ago. He questions if this is Heiha's real talent. The snow muffles all sound, leaving no echo to pinpoint his foe's location. A sniper battle commences within an alternate space. The masked sniper realizes he's in a bad situation, having entered his opponent Heiha's domain, and must urgently figure out a way to counterattack. A bullet strikes his shoulder, but he notes gratefully that he doesn't feel any cold in this strange space. He's shocked to have been shot, realizing Heiha is in here with him. He wonders how she could possibly have found him within the snow. He curses himself for being an idiot, as firing a random shot was the same as exposing his own position. He questions if his opponent is missing on purpose. He realizes she is doing this to have a direct showdown with him. He understands that she intends to defeat him head-on. Through his scope, he zeroes in on his target. He questions if this is arrogance, then realizes it's confidence. He declares it's time to finish this, activating his talent for a shot as precise as clockwork. His bullet shatters a conceptual clock face, flying true towards its target. Hato asks Heiha if it's over, noticing she has put her gun away. Heiha declares that victory is decided, and that is all. The sniper's body lies on the ground, a fatal wound to his head. The space around them begins to dissolve. A shadowy figure addresses his fallen subordinate as my king. The dying sniper admits his complete and utter defeat. The king acknowledges the outcome. The king explains that he witnessed Heiha's talent, which is for one-on-one combat. He elaborates that when opponents aim at each other, they are sent to her stadium, a pure white world where time stops, and warns his forces to be careful. The sniper apologizes for failing to avenge his fallen comrades. Ku reassures him that those things don't matter and asks if he enjoyed himself. With his last breath, the sniper thanks his king, saying he had the best time ever. The monstrous creature laughs manically, declaring the fight isn't bad and they should continue using their talents to tear each other apart. The hooded figure tells him that it's over and to look at his own body. The creature sees that not even half of its body remains. It roars that half is enough to continue. The hooded man is confused, finding his body suddenly unable to move. Ku's voice taunts him, calling his struggle pathetic. He shows a radar map of the unit distribution, revealing the greats were tracked from the start and that the sinners used no strategy, simply running straight at them. He points out that 90% of the greats' companions died in 10 minutes, while his side has not sustained a single injury, calling the situation pathetic. The hooded man learns that all of his companions have departed. Ku mocks their leader for being self-indulgent and failing to utilize the potential of his forces. The man angrily refutes the claim, insisting their king is not self-indulgent. He explains that their king pointed out a path of survival for them and prepared the best place for them to die. He tells Ku that he wouldn't understand, even if he were dying. A creature perches on the edge of a tall building, looking down at the city lights. Ku identifies the creature as Ripper Andre Chikatilo and asks if he intends to jump. The Ripper asks who this newcomer might be. Ku identifies the Ripper as a reincarnator of a sinner and reveals he knows about his struggle to suppress his murderous impulses, noting he's at his limit. The Ripper decides to kill himself first. He explains that at this rate, it's only a matter of time before he's consumed by his talent and becomes a murderer. Ku dismisses this as kindness, calling it stupid. The Ripper questions why, just because they received the talent of a sinner, they must be denied a place to belong and die. He screams that it's completely unfair. Ku extends a hand and invites the Ripper to come with him. Ku tells the Ripper not to die a pitiful death, and that if he's given up, he will carry his burden. Ku repeats his offer, promising a place for the Ripper to use his talents and asking him to come with him. The Ripper laughs, unable to believe Ku would carry another sinner's burden, and exclaims that Ku is so much more evil than he is. He recalls that Ku held his hand, and though he didn't say it then, he was really happy. A single tear falls from his eye. He thinks to himself that it really was the very best. Ku states that the eye has been cut off and everybody is dead. Nostradamus approaches his king. Nostradamus reports that their companions are basically all dead, the sniping has failed, and the specifics of their forces have been revealed. Ku declares that it's time. A character with a cat mask surveys the fallen enemies and receives an order for Schrödinger to group up with the forest team. He checks his radar and sees that the others don't seem to want to group up anyway. He reasons that his allies are moving by themselves without waiting for orders and that it's more effective for them to be spread apart. He decides it's not too late to group up after they've cleansed the remaining enemies. Schrödinger grins, saying that cats are obsessed with cleanliness. Hato tells Schrödinger to let them do what they want. She notes that there aren't many enemies left, and they can't turn the tables anymore. Hato complains to her big sis, Newman, that the sinners are just a bunch of abnormal people with the goal to be high and mighty. Newman, hearing Hato's disappointment, advises her not to be careless. Hato cheerfully acknowledges that she got scolded. Newman complains that everyone is doing what they want and asks Heiha to say something. Heiha replies that she gets tired after using her talent and is going to sleep. Hato tries to calm Newman down, pointing out that everything is going smoothly. Newman states that is precisely why it's weird. She muses that everything is too smooth and that it's unexpected for a battle strategist like Ku to be so helpless. She hesitates to express her guesswork to the others without any proof. Newman's bad feeling is confirmed as one of their winged scouts is suddenly destroyed. Hato is taken by surprise. Ku explains that their constant victories have lowered their subconscious defenses, and since the greats are all famous people who dislike obeying orders, their companionship is easily broken. Heido is struck by an unseen attack. Newman is shocked as communications are lost with the Wright brothers. The greats' vanguard is suddenly engulfed in a massive destructive attack. A character cries out that they've been hit. Ku remarks that this was to be expected of the White Feather and that he can already picture Newman's shocked face. A new sniper, the White Feather, holds his rifle. Nostradamus asked his king if he sacrificed so many companions for this one shot, and Ku confirms it, explaining that ordinary sinners are no match for greats. Ku explains that the fallen were merely numbers, not combat assets, and that with cracks appearing in the greats' formation, the real beginning is here. He maniacally announces the deployment of his elites of equal status capable of destroying the greats. He summons his 5 fierce generals. He introduces Fruit of Corruption, Pol Pot. He introduces the mastermind, Adolf Hitler. Ku orders them to go out there. He introduces the sniper, White Feather, Carlos Hathcock. He introduces Phoenix, Hans Ulrich Rudel. Ku gives them a final command to party as much as they want. Funisaka looks concerned. Taoya asks Funisaka what is wrong. Funisaka dismisses it as nothing. He worries internally that communications with Newman are cut and the radar is down, wondering if something happened at the camp. He had been following Newman's orders in dealing with Taoya, but now he can't receive any further instructions. Funisaka decides he must now make decisions for himself. Taoya screams for Funisaka to look to his right. 2 creatures descend upon Funisaka. Funisaka realizes he has no time to dodge. He resigns himself to the blow, thinking it's okay as he's used to pain. A glowing shuriken appears in the dark. Funisaka stares in shock as the attack unfolds. The creatures are suddenly skewered by dozens of spikes, saving Funisaka at the last second. The creatures are shredded by the spinning projectiles. Funisaka looks back and sees Taoya, questioning if it was him. Taoya is shocked at his own actions, realizing his body reacted instinctively. Seiya is startled by the display of talent. Seiya recognizes the ability as the talent of the Lord Impaler they previously fought. Seiya confronts Taoya, asking why he has the talent of a sinner. He realizes this is just as Newman suspected, and accuses Taoya of being the spy. Taoya is shocked to be called a spy. Seiya screams at him to answer, threatening to start shooting. Taoya frantically denies being a spy, realizing the timing of his exposed talent is awful. He pleads for them to believe him, knowing that nobody would believe it even if it's true. To his surprise, Funisaka steps in and says that he believes him. Taoya is stunned into silence by Funisaka's trust. Funisaka expresses his relief that Taoya isn't the spy, admitting he almost opened fire. Taoya asks why Funisaka believes him so quickly, given that he hid his talent from everyone. Funisaka explains that Taoya used his hidden talent to help him. Funisaka says he's not good at the kind of calculations or guesswork that Newman does. He states he doesn't want to suspect someone who has protected him for a second time, which is why he needs Taoya to explain things so he can trust him. He asks Taoya to tell him everything about himself. A caption identifies Taoya as he displays his stolen talent. With a flourish, he unleashes a barrage of shuriken from his shadowy form. The shuriken slam into a large training wall with destructive force. Taoya stands back, observing the power he now wields. Taoya listens as Heido claps enthusiastically. Heido marvels at the power, calling it the left arm of the thief. Taoya explains his goal is to use this power to surpass his brother and become a talented person. Heido suddenly changes the subject, asking him to fix his clothes because she does not know where to look. Heido expresses her relief, saying his power is worthy of her expectations and she was worried he would be too weak. She asks if he is really okay with her being happy for him. Taoya grimly asks if she understands that to gain talents, he will have to attack his own companions. Heido tells him that his plan is quite normal. Taoya is stunned, realizing that the talents of the greats are much better than the sinners, and it's obvious which side he'll target. She pats him on the back, telling him to do his best, much to his confusion. Heido states that whoever loses their talent can only blame their own weakness, a sentiment that shocks Taoya. Taoya notices their phones are off, a measure taken to avoid Newman's detection. He confirms with Heido that she did this to explain everything to him clearly, as she was the one who led him down this path. Heido smiles, saying she is really happy. Suddenly, Hato lunges forward, attacking Taoya. Hato angrily confronts Taoya, demanding to know why she wasn't the first one he tried to steal from. She dismisses his excuses about friendship, claiming he doesn't care about such things. She reveals that she already knows the true reason. Her talent has not yet reached maturity. She demands that he make a promise with her. Hato declares she will use the upcoming battles to mature her sword talent for her father's dojo, making it irresistible to Taoya. Taoya understands and agrees, stating he will also collect talents to surpass his brother and surprise her. They clasp hands, sealing their promise for their own sakes. They promise to meet up after the battle ends. Later, Funisaka confirms he understands Taoya's motivation to surpass his brother. Funisaka asks if Taoya also told Musashi, commenting that Newman would probably faint if she knew. Taoya is flustered, wondering how he so easily let everything slip. Funisaka muses that he isn't good at dealing with people who are the same inside and out, like Funisaka and Hato. Taoya, having made his decision, sits and waits. He steels himself for the moment of truth, wondering if Funisaka will execute or arrest him. Instead of hostility, Funisaka calls out to Taoya and declares, "I will help you." Taoya is completely bewildered by the offer. Funisaka warns that he is strong, and Taoya will have to do his best to take his talent. Taoya struggles to understand why Funisaka would help him. Funisaka simply replies that he cannot help it, as he really fancies people like Taoya. Taoya is left reeling in confusion. Funisaka smiles and tells him to hurry up and move out. They arrive at the Earthbranch Fortress, with the main castle just beyond it. Taoya observes that the structure looks more like an arena than a fortress. Funisaka muses that humans are contradictory creatures and that Taoya does not understand himself at all. He reflects that Taoya wants talent from anyone, yet protects his companions and answers truthfully. Funisaka concludes that Taoya is truly contradictory. Funisaka tells him this is because he is still human. Taoya asks why Funisaka pursues talent. Having been open himself, Taoya asks Funisaka for his real name. Funisaka apologizes, admitting he can no longer remember those things. He cannot recall the things that happened to him when he was still human. Funisaka prepares to open the gate, warning Taoya that enemies might be waiting inside. He tells Taoya to stay alert as they enter. The gate is suddenly blasted open from the inside. A hooded enemy attacks from within the smoke and debris. Another combatant activates his replicator talent, creating clones to act as human shields. The replicated clones are instantly destroyed by precise sniper fire. The sniper Simo Heihe is shocked, not expecting two enemy snipers. Newman observes that the enemy is strong, having destroyed all of Driess's clones instantly. Simo realizes that if Newman is hit, the gathering of the greats will crumble. He grits his teeth, determined to stop his opponent no matter what. The sniper duel takes place within the talent known as White Hell. Simo believes he has successfully pulled his opponent in, and now must defeat him to return. However, he is unsettled by the brief look he got of his opponent's appearance. Simo dismisses his unease, focusing on finding a way to defeat his opponent quickly. He scans the snowy landscape, wondering where his foe is. He finds his vision is somehow blocked, unable to see. Suddenly, his opponent appears directly in front of him. His opponent points out that the long gun is useless up close and that Simo is too reliant on his scope. Simo is shocked that a fellow sniper would willingly close the distance. The opponent finds Simo's talent interesting, a space where time seems to stop, but notes that Whitman lost because he couldn't link up with time. He comments on the white feathers, calling Simo a strange sniper. Simo registers the words white feather. He asks if the man before him is the legendary sniper Hathcock. The bird-like man confusingly says his name is Simo Heihe before introducing himself for the first time. He proposes moving 2,000 feet away to resume the duel, asking Simo not to shoot before then. Simo frantically yells for him to stop. He cannot comprehend why his opponent is acting this way. The bird-like man is revealed to be Carlos Hathcock, the legendary sniper of the U.S. Marine Corps, the White Feather. Simo demands to know why a great like Hathcock would be in the Sinner army. Hathcock cryptically says not to worry. He promises Simo will understand once they have fought. The fortress is rocked by a massive explosion from within. Taoya takes cover, wondering what the blast was. Funisaka rushes to Taoya's side, asking if he's hurt, but Taoya points out that Funisaka is bleeding. Funosaka insists he's okay since he can't die, but says it hurts to look at Taoya. A new enemy appears, calling them stupid and too slow. A new enemy appears, stating he was getting tired of waiting. He grins, declaring it is time for them to try and kill each other. Taoya identifies the enemy and prepares to fight alongside Funosaka. Funosaka holds him back, telling him to stay there. He realizes that he is the man's target. The enemy reveals his identity, Hans Ulrich Rudel, the demon of the Stuka, also known as the Phoenix. Funosaka confirms there is no doubt about his identity. Taoya is shocked, asking why he is an enemy. Rudel was known as a hero of the German army. Funosaka wonders the same thing, as he thought the Sinner army only consisted of reincarnated sinners. Rudel addresses the boy, confirming his name is Senji Taoya. Taoya is shocked that Rudel knows his name. Rudel opens fire with his massive weapon. The blast engulfs Funosaka completely. Funosaka stands his ground against the powerful blast. Rudel watches calmly as the smoke clears. Taoya is shocked to see that Funosaka is unharmed. Rudel tells Taoya to look well, promising he will understand why after he sees it. Everything is hidden within the battle. This is a dance, a fight that desecrates life and holds death in contempt, where the smell of gunpowder and burnt flesh permeates the battlefield amidst an endless cacophony of explosions and the piercing shrill of a trumpet. This is a frenzied dance between the immortals. The battle rages on near a large coliseum, the ground littered with craters. From the billowing smoke, a shadowy figure emerges. A skeletal figure stands as flesh reforms around it. One combatant's body, seemingly obliterated, begins to reform. Nearby, another soldier calmly watches as his own wounds heal instantly. Rudel identifies his opponent Funosaka's ability as self-regeneration. Funosaka acknowledges that it is one type of immortality, but has something to say about it. He dismisses any further talk, summoning multiple rifles and warning Rudel to save his nonsense for death. Rudel calls Funosaka arrogant but admits he has moxie, daring him to make him shut up. He unleashes a barrage of gunfire. The attack forces Funosaka to dive for cover. Funosaka retaliates, throwing a handful of grenades, but Rudel shoots them down. The grenades are destroyed midair. Observing from a distance, Taoya notes the significant difference in equipment between the two immortals is likely due to their different military branches. Funosaka, being army infantry, is limited to grenades and rifles. On the other hand, Rudel, a former bomber pilot, wields a powerful machine gun that only a bomber would carry. He summons a bomber aircraft, unleashing a volley of bombs and taunting his opponent to experience the fear of its sound. The bombs, known as Jericho's trumpet, rain down upon the battlefield. They cause a massive, fiery explosion. Taoya remarks that the scale of destruction from Jericho's trumpet is too overwhelming for Funosaka to counterattack. He believes their only hope is Faber, who could ambush Rudel with absolute stealth. However, Taoya finds it strange that he can't see any sign of Faber attempting an attack on Rudel. He begins to wonder if Faber is really fighting alongside them. Meanwhile, deep in a forest, the one called Faber realizes they are lost. They note that their radar signal has been cut off after pursuing enemy forces deep into the forest. They remain unconcerned, confident that Funosaka, being undead, cannot lose and decide to take their time. Just then, they notice someone else in the woods. Faber has stumbled upon two new figures, Pol Pot and Hitler. Pol Pot spots the enemies and prepares a syringe, intending to kill them quietly. Suddenly, Pol Pot recoils in shock. He realizes that the figure in the distance can see him. Faber is equally stunned, believing it's impossible and must be a coincidence. They think that no one should possibly be able to locate them. Faber lunges at Pol Pot, who swiftly dodges the attack. Hitler correctly identifies the attacker as the observer Faber, noting their absolute stealth ability which conceals both body and sound. Insisting on manners, Hitler introduces herself. She introduces her silent companion as Pol Pot. Faber is stunned, realizing they are facing the reincarnators of history's dictators. Hitler anticipates Faber's unspoken questions, why she knows their talent and why their stealth is not working. She calmly promises to explain everything in an orderly fashion. Hitler explains that Faber's talent is not the only one she knows. She lists several others, including those of Einstein, Newton, and Yajujube. Her own talent, Mastermind, allows her to know the past lives and abilities of all members of the Gathering of the Greats. Faber wonders if this means Pol Pot has a talent that can negate others. Hitler corrects them, stating their stealth was not negated, but simply removed through other means. The reason Faber was discovered, Hitler explains, is the smell. She tells Faber to look around. The forest has been rotted away by Pol Pot's talent, fruit of corruption. The air is filled with a terrible stench, and in such an environment, the area around Faber, which has no scent, is incredibly noticeable. Faber realizes too late that it was all a trap set up to hunt them down and kill them. Hitler explains that prolonging the conversation allowed Pol Pot's corruption to intensify, making Faber's lack of smell even more noticeable, and that the companions they pursued were bait. With Faber's position revealed, Pol Pot lunges forward to attack. After dealing with Faber, Pol Pot is ready to leave. Hitler notes that Faber is dead and their remains are unrecognizable. She agrees to move on to the next target. She muses that it is better to throw away the entire box of apples when one rots, and as expected, she quickly finds who she is looking for. Back at the Colosseum, Taoya is surprised that he has gotten used to the ear-shattering explosions, sirens, and the thick smell of sulfur. Suddenly, Funisaka is struck hard by an unseen force. A simple thump signals a powerful blow. The attacker is revealed to be Pol Pot, who stands over the blasted remains of a wall as Funisaka retaliates with gunfire. Rudel simply laughs, declaring the attack useless. Taoya watches the long, drawn-out battle, musing that backup is unlikely to come. He feels a strange lack of tension, because he knows that neither side will truly die. Funisaka is able to heal immediately, no matter how serious the damage. And Rudel is able to remain unharmed, no matter what sort of attack he receives. Though they are of different types, they are both indeed immortal. Taoya grimaces at this realization. The relentless battle continues as another Jericho's trumpet is unleashed. Funisaka complains that Rudel's superb attack and defense are giving him a headache, while Taoya comments that his one-man army level is impressive. Taoya then observes that Funisaka seems to be enjoying the fight. Funisaka admits he can't deny it, but confesses the situation is dire as he sees no chance of victory. Taoya states his confidence that Funisaka will not lose because he is undead. This prompts Funisaka to ask Taoya if he ever feels tired after using his talent. Taoya confirms that he often does, and asks why Funisaka is asking. Funisaka explains that his own reincarnated state will revert once those feelings of exhaustion appear, which he believes is because he has not reached maturity. He clarifies that everyone who uses their talent expends massive amounts of both physical and mental strength, with no exceptions. Funisaka explains that this means even being undead has its limits, and under the continuous assault, he will be the first to reach his. That is why, he concludes, he will die and ultimately